very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the guests from different time zones. Professor A.K. Rai, Vice Chancellor, University of Lucknow, Professor Shukla, Dean Faculty of Commerce, Professor Sharma, former Head Department of Business Administration, Mr. Sanjay Medhavi, current Head Department of Business Administration, our esteemed speakers for the day, Dr. Pia Polsa, Professor of Marketing from Hanken School of Economics, Helsinki, Mr. Rajiv Jamkhetkar, MD and CEO, Serengeti Ventures Private Limited, Mr. Sudhir Seal, CEO, bookmyshow.com UAE, and Mr. Syed Rizvi, Vice President and Head TCS Cognitive Business Operations North America. Various professors from our university, other universities, colleges, academicians, researchers, managers, industry experts, business consultants, dear students, and other distinguished guests from across the world. On behalf of the Department of Business Administration, University of Lucknow, I accord a very warm welcome to each one of you to the International E-Seminar on Changing Paradigms in Marketing. What is causing so much change in marketing paradigms? I'm sure I don't have to say anything about that. Every person present here is well aware of it. One thing is very clear, that even as consumers, our lives are no longer the same. If COVID-19 has made business houses and brands vulnerable and thrown them out of gear, then at the same time, it has presented various opportunities as well. To exploit them, it's very important for companies to take stock of current scenario, anticipate changes in human psychology and behavior, reflect on possible threats and internal weaknesses, experiment based on strengths and opportunities, and learn to create, promote, and deliver value in newer ways. Where on one hand, the recession is leading to global slowdown, on the other hand, a number of new startups have emerged, and existing companies are diversifying into hygiene and other related products. Various business houses, local governments, schools, colleges, retail businesses, universities, and hospitals are either adopting or upgrading to newer technologies. Understanding the significance of changing marketing paradigms, Professor Alok Kumar Rai, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, motivated me on Monday evening, that is 1st June, to organize a webinar in marketing on Sunday, that is today. As an encouragement, he volunteered to be one of the speakers. I welcome him with a lot of respect and gratitude in my heart. I also extend a hearty welcome to Professor S.K. Shukla, who is the guest of honor today. Well, since the time to organize was too less, I was quite nervous. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Today is a very special and memorable occasion to warmly welcome, acknowledge, and thank my friends from India, Finland, USA, and UAE who have agreed to speak on the topic. Thank you. I'm happy to share that we received an overwhelming response of over 2,500 registrations within the first 48 hours of opening online registrations. Then we were forced to close further registrations. And now the webinar is also being aired live on YouTube channel of our department. Once again, I wholeheartedly welcome all the dignitaries, esteemed guests, friends, and participants. A big round of applause for all our guests, especially those who've joined us from Australia, UK, Nepal, Singapore, Malaysia, Kenya, USA, Finland, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Canada, UAE, Indonesia, and India. So we've got representations from 5 continents. Now, I invite Mr. Sanjay Medhavi, Head Department of Business Administration and convener of the e-seminar, to say a few words. Professor Medhavi, please.
Good afternoon, all of you. Good afternoon to our esteemed speakers. Good afternoon to all the delegates who have joined with us. This is the first time in the history of the department when we are doing an international seminar with such a large audience spread throughout the world. Today, we all are witnessing an epidemic of unprecedented dimensions. This has affected not only the society, but also the business systems. Today, the way we interact, the way the businesses and the customers will interact, the way goods will and services will move from the manufacturers to the customers, everything is undergoing a paradigm change. Today, we are witnessing the formation of a new tomorrow, a normal, a new world. Accordingly, all theories, all systems, all marketing concepts have to be reoriented. In this perspective, we have organized today's conference. What will happen is that we will have to redesign the way we interact, the way we engage our customers, the way goods and services are being produced and moved. What I see in the future is that there will be more of customizations, more of localizations. Instead of having big factories at one place in the world and supplying to the entire world, we might have a number of small factories supplying to local communities. The entire international logistics is going to change. The entire way the countries engage with each other is going to change. There will be less of physical movement, more of online contacts. In this perspective, the marketing aspects, the distributions, the advertising, the way we manage our customers, everything is changing. So, in today's seminars, all these aspects are going to be deliberated upon. And we are going to then come out with a compendium of the recommendations and then try to send it to all the participants and the people who run the industry and the government, so that the ideas shared today can actually make an impact in the society. And then we will be able to help each other in developing new theories, new methods, new systems, and accordingly exploit all the opportunities that are going to come from the new world order. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Medhavi. Due to some emergency, Professor Shukla, the Dean, had to leave. So now we have the first speaker for today's seminar. And the first speaker is Professor Alok Kumar Rai, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lucknow. Before joining the University of Lucknow, Professor Rai served the Institute of Management Studies at Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, in different capacities. Dr. Rai is the Professor of Marketing at Institute of Management Sciences, Banaras Hindu University. Sir holds expertise in the areas of customer relationship management, marketing management, and entrepreneurship development. His research interests revolve around customer relationship modeling, customer loyalty engineering, service quality architecture, customer satisfaction, portfolio design, etc. Professor Rai has presented his holistic perspectives and research products in over 75 publications that include 6 authored and 4 edited books, and numerous book chapters, articles, and research papers in the leading academic journals of consequence. Professor Rai is credited with standardizing the curriculum content of customer relationship management in India with his best-selling title, Customer Relationship Management Concepts and Cases, published by PHI Learning, that brought his pioneering work on devising a formula for the computation of constructs such as customer lifetime value and customer satisfaction to the fore. Professor Rai is an NAC expert for assessment and accreditation, MHRD expert for different committees, an expert chairman and member of different committees of several regular and technical universities. He has also faculty board, board of studies, curriculum development committees of several leading universities and management colleges of the country. Sir has introduced several initiatives in our university, and he seeks to foster a swift and agile system in the university through a lean, decentralized structure and innovation. Now I request Professor Alok Kumar Rai, Vice Chancellor, University of Lucknow, to give both his presidential address as well as share his thoughts on customer relationship management, the architectural framework. Sir, over to you. Professor Rai is soon going to start with his presentation. So please unmute yourself.
Am I audible properly?
Yes, sir, you're audible. We are waiting. Please come.
Yeah, I was only checking with the voice. No, thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Thank you for having such an elaborate introduction of mine. I know this is an extremely risky proposition, and it is as risky as the challenge that Corona poses. Because satisfaction is a function of expectation and perception, and with this high an elaborate introduction raises the expectation bar, and if we assume that the perception is of at the same level, the dissatisfaction is bound to be there. So you're threatening me with that, posing me towards that challenge. Anyways, let me first welcome on behalf of University of Lucknow and also on my own behalf Mr. Syed Rizvi. He is head cognitive division businesses of TCS North America. Professor Pia Polsa from Hankins School of Economics, Mr. Sudhir from Book My Show, Mr. Rajiv. Dean Faculty of Commerce has just left, Head of Department, Professor Medhavi. I can see so many esteemed faculty members from the university, including my Dean of Student Welfare. I can see some of my research scholars and former research scholars as well. I can see several faces who I can recognize who are from management fraternity and who have been doing exceedingly well in the area of marketing and otherwise. So I welcome you all from the bottom of my heart on behalf of University of Lucknow, which is my these days the host institution, and also on my personal behalf. I am surprised to see that such a wonderful department of this great seat of learning is holding its first ever seminar. But then, better late than never, I can clearly remember when I called Professor Ritu Narang to think of something, because all of the departments have been doing excellently well in propagation of information and knowledge. But then finally, within less than a week's time, she has been able to muster such a wonderful pool of and galaxy of speakers in this. And very importantly is that she has been able to muster listeners. This is extremely difficult. Finding speakers are easy. So, but she has been able to muster a number of listeners, which is commendable job. So I congratulate you, madam, for hosting such a wonderful thing. I congratulate the entire department mates of yours. Having said this, to start with, as I said, first challenge Professor Ritu Narang posed before me. Besides, there are three more challenges in the premise of which I'm starting. First is, of course, we all realize the challenge of Corona. Second is, we as a teacher would certainly like to interact with live audience. And as a teacher, it does not get a feel of speaking over someone who are not visible. But the most important is the time limit that I had been given by the organizing secretary of this e-seminar, and that was 30 minutes, out of which 5 minutes went on to introduction, and remaining 25 minutes is the time within which I have to share the work that I have been doing in the area of my choice. And interestingly, this is the only work that I know in the world. So, and we did a lot of work in this area along with my students, my management students, and also my doctoral research student. This is the area that I have been working. I should acknowledge the contribution of my research scholar, Palima, who helped me in preparing this presentation. Actually, she made the presentation extremely beautiful. So a credit is due to you, Palima. Now the work is, what is the purpose of any business organization? It is creation and retention of customer. And I'm not saying this, Peter Drucker says this, so you've got lesser chance of arguing. Peter Drucker said, the purpose of any business is creation and retention of customer. But the question always comes in, who is the customer? So you all know I'm not going into the basics. You all are professionals. So, but an important statistics that I would like to share with respect to dynamics of the customer character, and that is what the American Society of Quality and Anderson Consulting Inc. in their report brought out following findings. A, and in Indian context, it becomes more interesting to observe. Customer tells 8 friends about a satisfying experience and 20 friends about a negative experience. So it's not only Indian society, but the entire global society is actually chugalkhor by nature. It is easier to influence existing customers to buy 10% more than to increase the customer base by 10%. 80% of successful new product and service ideas come from existing customers, and repeat customers cost 1/5 of, actually this data through various studies, of late it got revised to 1/5 to 1/8, depending on the product category we are talking of, less than new customers, and can substantially increase profits. Now, we all know this led to redefinition of the conventional model of customer satisfaction to customer delight. I'll share some of the examples which recent changes took place across certain industries. Like you could see United Bank of India, their cash line says the bank that begins with U. Now this U is important, this U is the customer. ICICI Bank, before Khayal Aapka, they had Hum Aapke Hain Na, Hum Aapke Hain. Sorry, it was based on the movie called Hum Aapke Hain something. It was Hum Hai Na. So from Hum Hai Na, that is boasting on the strength of the company, they shifted the power onto the customer stating Khayal Aapka. So it is the customer that had been leading. I would like to draw the attention to this initiative that Coca-Cola has been starting. And I would like to draw the attention of my Dean of Student Welfare, because ice breaking is extremely important, especially when the new session begins and new students come in. I would like to quote here, one important factor is that education is one such industry which is extremely peculiar. And one peculiarity of this industry is that in this very industry, students are the customers as well as students are the product. This does not happen in any other industry. So this is very peculiar industry, and a special care is required in building a relationship with these students. So Coca-Cola, what did was a friendly twist. They initiated a friendly twist campaign where it said Coca-Cola launched a campaign in Colombia where college freshmen were given Coke bottles on their first day of campus. The caps of these bottles could be opened only by clicking together with another cap. This encouraged students to team up and leading to conversations between strangers on the first day of college. The company played a key role in breaking the ice among the freshmen. This initiative reflected Coca-Cola's brand image, a part of which is the beginning of important friendships and the sharing of joyful, long-lasting memories. Similarly, you have seen this Ola, we all have experienced upgrading to upper segment. Axis Bank offering priority relationship managers. Even Indian Railway, conventional operator like Indian Railways have started opting for, though their premise was first come, first serve. Traditionally, it has been, and conventionally for corporates, it has been based on certain objective parameter. Those objective parameters were largely guided by the profitability. Airtel's open network ad, which said the open network makes available to user information about network coverage and signal strength across the country, in addition to network sites deployment status. Even in politics, politics is also no inferior in industry than other corporates. And you can think of what was the value assigned to a voter by a political organization or a political leader 20 years back, and what is it today? Even one gets open communication avenue for people to talk to and at least lodge the ideas with the authorities, with the policymakers. We all have seen how successful late Sushma Madam's initiative while she was Minister for External Affairs, and Prabhuji, Suresh Prabhuji, who has been an extremely popular railway minister, who initiated all this. But what is the reason for all these specific initiatives? And the reason has been the competition. There is a clutter at all these places. And I would like to draw your attention to the following commercial. So you could see how this competition even took an ugly shape. There are certain other examples like the Flipkart, which says the big billion day. The Snapdeal says for others it could be a big day, for us today is no difference. That is, all days are big days. Then uh, those who are aware of this famous Audi BMW competition, which took a new bottom low. Same was the case with Pantene and Dove when it came to shampoo category. But what has been the effect of this competition? Competition has been because of homogeneity of marketing mix across companies. Adverse, the customer loyalty was one factor that was affected badly. And it is because of competition that there has been increased customer expectation, especially pertaining to recognition of self, round the clock wish for products, and response speed also is expected to be extremely high. Even in our university, we find students coming down, walking down anytime, anywhere, and expect their issues to be resolved then and there. And it is not very improper and imprudent. But then certainly there are issues that it has been because of competition. So ultimately, any transaction has to be value transaction. And it is for the marketer to appreciate what this customer value is. Actually, this customer value is a function of benefit upon cost. Now, traditionally, there has been a denominator driven value creation proposition, which over a period of time and advent of modern marketing, it got shifted from denominator driven to numerator driven. That is, for example, if we take, say, 3 petrol stations on one side of the road, and you go to one petrol station, what happens? Price of the petrol is the same, and he gives you good fuel and proper fillage. But then when you go to the next one says, okay, I'll give you this plus this along with cleaning of your windshield and the namaste and a proper welcome and a small music. But the third one says, if you go to first or second, you do not go to the third one. So third one says, look, if you come to me, you buy a certain voucher, I'll give you say 2% extra fuel. Now here, the effect is being undertaken to alter the values of numerator. Relationship became an extreme. So homogeneity of all marketing mix parameters, the remedy found in relationship company was found to be the one factor that could create superior value to the customers. But what is relationship? And it is extremely important to explain what is relationship, and let us think beyond the typical traditional relationship status that we write on our Facebook page, which is single, engaged, or married. So relationship is an empathetic state between the company and the customer where both perceive mutual benefit in each other's company and pursue practices for sustained stay. I'm not going into all these, but then even during this COVID time, I would like to share the initiative of ICICI Bank, which taking the cue from COVID-19 outbreak, they initiated something to address to their customers in special reference to this COVID. How could they strengthen the bond of relationship? There are certain theories that I'm deliberately skipping considering the time. Uh, and of course, there has been benefit of this customer relationship management practices to customers as well as to the company. Even for the customer, it has been recognition of requirement, need fulfillment, exclusive need fulfillment, speedier service, service accuracy, increased confidence, lesser uncertainty, customer concerns, and greater value for money. But very importantly, for the company, it has had a superior value. So it was, of course, perpetual stream of revenue, increased retention, opportunity to cross-sell and upsell, provides premium, positive referral creation, high customer lifetime value, lowering cost of sale, reduce marketing time, and building, at the end of the day, the goal of marketing, which is to build customer loyalty. This is what the company can actually get out of implementation of relationship management. But very important issue with respect to customer relationship management is that worldwide, what should be the implementation framework, this has been grossly missing. So in past few years, CRM industry has witnessed a moderate growth. And one thing I should also tell you before going out of that implementation model, that let us not consider customer relationship management as just an IT product. Information technology is only a support tool to facilitate implementation of customer relationship management in an organization to strengthen, because the marketing shifted from transactional marketing to relationship marketing. And that is why out of this 6-step model, it is only one step where information technology is being leveraged. Of course, there are several other ways of using it in the greater interest of the organization. So in the past few years, CRM industry has witnessed a moderate growth. CRM projects are capable of achieving high return on investment, but they are suffering from high failure rates. So where lies the solution? It is the CRM framework that we are going to discuss today that addresses the marketing issues that come. There certainly had been certain issues of conventional customer relationship management practices, which was, of course, lack of technological support, restricted to smaller group of customers, limited to specific trades, was largely unorganized and unstructured, absence of expansive and holistic approach, failure in re-engineering of business processes, lack of organizational integration, lack of strategic perspective, disintegration between multidimensional component of CRM, absence of process-oriented cross-functional conceptualization of CRM, disintegration between technological and strategic approach, lack of customer relationship management, performance management system, absence of integrated framework, absence of causal structure, non-consideration of employee, satisfaction, and certainly absence of customer lifetime value approach. But what is actually CRM that we are going to talk of? We are going to talk of that it is a continuously updated process of identifying relative value of customers and designing customized company interaction to delight them, so that they do not just remain with the company profitably, but also be the company's ambassador. Full involvement and empowerment of employees and appropriate technology are two essentials for successful CRM. Now, something that I'm going to talk about is this is what the premise where we are going to start it from. Now, this is the 6C step that we are talking about. This is the hierarchical architecture. Stage 1 starts with customer lifetime value assessment. We'll subsequently go to each individual C and we'll see what does this mean. So customer lifetime value assessment is 1. After assessing the lifetime value of the customer, the second stage is segmentation and profiling of the customer, so that the exclusive need identification can be done with respect to the customer's specific needs. Third comes, now let us come back to the process and create a product which meets the exclusive requirements of the customer, that is content customization. Then comes the role of a computer-aided communication design, which can ensure 24/7 effective communication the way customer wants. Fourth is the competency mapping between what the customer's requirements are and what the company can offer. And last but not the least is the feedback system. So this is the 6C model that is being proposed for the hierarchical architecture. Now, lifetime value, as you know, is about optimizing each interaction and conversation in order to create an engaged customer relationship, which drives customer retention, repeat purchases, customer referrals, reduce support cost, and possibly even charge price premiums. So CLTV, customer lifetime value, is the total monetary value realized by the company out of customers' sustained stay with the company, bringing in increased consumption benefits arising out of superior relationships. There are two ways of calculating lifetime value. One is the historical lifetime value, that is, since you have been with the company, what is the total revenue that you have produced to the organization. Second is the predictive lifetime value, which is of greater significance, especially in the modern businesses. If you keep staying with the organization for all the days to come, what is the total revenue that the organization can accrue out of your stay for the entire lifetime? There are certain mathematical formulations of assessing this lifetime value. This is the core basic arithmetic equation when the nature of rate of change in consumption is discrete. So here it is M1, which denotes the total expenditure made by the customer in first year. multiplied by 1 plus r by 100 to the power n minus 1 divided by r by 100, where n denotes the total number of years of customers stay with the company and r denotes the annual rate of growth in the expenditure. But normally what happens is our consumptions are not discrete in nature, rather it is continuous. So arithmetic equations are restricted with the limitation of registering the responses which cannot be practically converted. For all the practical consumption values can less be done this. So what I subsequently did was to account for the consumptions that are continuous in nature, the time horizon would require limit continuity theory. And here the final value that comes out to be, since this has not been published yet, so I'm not look, I'm not sharing this. This is the final value that I've arrived at, through which the continuous consumption can also be checked in, and we can formulate actually what would be the value that comes in. Now after, and this is the algorithm through which, based on this algorithm, subsequent coding can be done to create the softwares which will register. Now it does happen, like for example, you have visited say a hotel twice in a year. And normally what happens is when you go to the hotel, they ask for, like the banks charge, ask for our KYC. Most of these service providers also ask for those KYCs in some different forms. So in those different forms, what we normally get is the family income, family size, and the frequency, based on which it is through this that one can project what is the total money that the organization can be accrued to, can receive from the customer, if the customer can be made satisfied and happily stay with the organization accordingly. But then what happens is, like for example, there are separate segments created for the customer based on the lifetime value. Different customer segments have got different requirements and different needs based on which they can be satiated. So based on the predictive lifetime value estimation, different customer segments are created. These segments are then analyzed on the parameter of accessibility, differentiability, responsiveness, and profitability. So subsequent mapping of the segment is to be done on the basis of segment serving ability of the company. This is what the customer profitability matrix is, where the two parameters are the pass margins and the potential margins. So here companies can use in segmenting the customers and designing the offers. But very important factor here post segmentation is profiling of the customer. So if a rich Marwadi is a frequent traveler in an aviation company, may not like to be served a drink or a non-veg food, which otherwise could be treated as premium. So this profiling that way is extremely important. So customer segment thus selected needs to be profiled. Profiling can be done based on 5 parameters: customer purchase behavior, customer connect, customer persona, creating customer persona, customer location, and customer description. So after, like, customer lifetime value identification has been done, based on lifetime value, segmentation and subsequent profiling has been done. Now post profiling, content customization is a must. So how does and what exactly is the need of the product? In one of these study I did find, even at the time of when Kingfisher Airline used to rule the Indian skies, is that a typical person who is extremely frequent traveler would hesitate in opening with the relationship with the relationship only because of the extremely elegance exhibited by the operators. So this, instead of adding and augmenting the relationship, it used to act as a detriment in furthering of the relationship. So content customization that way is extremely important. In designer, I have personally witnessed in banks in Varanasi, which is probably the biggest trading center between Kanpur to Patna, that is 6 kilometers, 300 kilometers radius, is that a very strong, extremely wealthy businessman, when visits the bank branch and sees that passbook nahi denge. Now this passbook nahi denge acts as a big detriment because he ultimately wants, or the person is speaking such a wonderful English, this does not let furtherance of the relationship and deepening of the relationship. So in design of product, customization can be attempted through digital marketing tools and techniques. This is in case of customization of the product. It is important to take cognizance of following issues in customization. Very important is customer's profile parity, which we have already done at stage 2. But second and very important is revenue cost parity. That is, what is the total return that the organization is going to receive, because every customization is a cost to the organization, right? And then comes computer aided communication design, because it is extremely important to keep the modern customer engaged, to ensure sustenance of 24/7 communication. Through computer aided communication design, there are following benefits that can accrue to the organization. One is customer information accuracy. So आदमी गलती करता है, मशीनें गलती नहीं करती. 24/7 communication is possible. Cost optimization can be done. Customization can be done, and very important is user control. So if you want to say, for example, if the organization provides you an opportunity to communicate through maybe SMS or WhatsApp or email or website, or even bots or virtual VCRs, which we call as virtual customer representatives, we can do this and with lesser cost. So user control is always in the hands of the customer. Customer interface requires attention and responses, and I am gradually speaking onto. I'm not going into the technical details of this. So there are, of course, so many information technology tools like data mining and data warehousing, rather data warehousing and data mining. There are certain popular communication technology, which says voice portals are there, web phones, bots. Bots means e-robot. Virtual customer representatives. Then there are some very popular CRM softwares like Siebel, Oracle, MySAP, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, etc., etc. Then comes the HR issue, which talks about competency mapping. Now, different people like to be served differently, so employees need to have the ability to judge, acknowledge, and act accordingly. Employees in modern marketing literature are being considered as internal customers. So digital marketing tools have been leveraged to create a system whose competency can be mapped with the requirement of the customers. So competency creation is the first stage. Considering the specific requirements of the customer, competency creation is required. It's a 3-stage process. One is competency identification, which involves identification of knowledge, skill, and motive. So competency is a function of these 3 traits: knowledge, skill, and motive. And so identification of all these 3 is a must. Then competency gap analysis is important. This involves employee competency assessment and compare it with the requirements identified. And third is competency development. So whatever the gap is, imparting competency to bridge the competency gap identified above. Now, building compatible employee competency mapping, which requires training, orientation, involvement, empowerment, and last but not the least is the feedback. So this is a 5-stage process. And last but not the least, as I said, is consistent customer satisfaction. The CRM process has to be evaluated by the customers for the satisfaction it renders. So something that I started with, I'll reword it and I'll reintroduce it, is that customer satisfaction or otherwise dissatisfaction is the cognitive judgment, though many of the modern literature talk it as cognitive as well as emotional judgment of a customer, resulting out of an interaction between the customer's personality and customer's marketing practices in the perspective of the expectation customer had with the product and perception of the benefits received. So it is the company which, through its marketing practices, say in service company, we talk of product, price, place, promotion, people, process, and physical evidences, get exposed onto the customer. Now, customer is made up of variety of factors. It is the family or social background, the education, the cognition, the psychology, the experience, emotion, and expertise. So this is what a customer is made up of. When the company is exposed onto the customer, there are two basic broad parameters within which the customer evaluates. One is the expectation, second is the perception. Now, if the perception is more than that of expectation, it leads to a state of satisfaction, and subsequent feedback goes on to the redesigning of marketing practices. If otherwise, that is, if expectation is more than that of perception, it again acts as it is a state of dissatisfaction, which subsequently acts as an input for the organization, for the company's marketing practices to subsequently revisit. So actually, satisfaction is a function of expectation and perception. So when we open the equation, we finally find this mathematical equation. And there are the algorithm which may enable the organization to create these platforms for assessment of satisfaction based on these two. Because, and very important is, say if for example there are 20 parameters leading to the satisfaction formation. Now in these 20 parameters, not all the parameters will carry equal weight. So these weight identifications are extremely important. And that is why this W is actually the weight assigned by the customer to different determinants of satisfaction. N is the number of determinants. The S stands for determinant of satisfaction for perception. That is ith. I is the number. And similarly for E. So based on this equation, we can always calculate this. Having said this, ours is one institution probably in the country which has been extremely proactive with respect to implementation of this in our organization. And I can take shelter of this Corona model. What our institution has done with respect to the reinventing the academics of our institution during this Corona period. What we did was, as academics has got two important components. One is the teaching, second is the innovation. So in teaching, what we did was we again resorted to a 3C model, which talks of first conduct of classes. We leveraged information technology tremendously with respect to conduct of our classes. And even to the extent of that ours is a regular university and not a technical and very technologically savvy industry, largely into BA-BSc BCom model. Popularly we call it as BA-BSc BCom model. Even in our university, the different departments have been placing the timetable of the e-classes or information technology classes on our website, so that students can get access to all these. Second and very important was that what we have been doing is that even conduct of class had been on a mutually agreed time. So I personally know that many of the teachers used to take their classes at 9 in the evening, because some rural area students were getting greater internet access and greater speed on internet during night. So first what we did was, first C of our classes was a conduct of class. Second was with respect to creation of content. Here also what we did was we created our esteemed faculty members created our contents. Very importantly, unlike many of the very leading institutions in the country, we placed our created information technology platform on the information technology platform. The content that we had created, we placed on our website in an open access model, so that any student, be it our own or of our associate colleges, or any student all across the globe, can access to the content developed by our teachers. Subsequently, what we have started doing was that in our library, because our library is one unique library which provides remote access. So during the Corona period only, we could create over 4,000 accounts user ID passwords of our student to access to the e-books and e-journals that are available in our website. So what we started doing was that in our library, we would be creating like in any library, what we find is we find a section of say textbooks, reference books, maybe uh, um, e-books, journals, etc., etc. We are creating a separate section for the e-content developed by our faculty members. So this was creation of content, and the sole decision was based on the sheer confidence that the institution has on the competence of its faculty members. Third was connect with student. In this connect with student, very importantly, during this corona period, we launched two of our student mentoring program. One was our student OPD. Now, OPD is largely a medical term used for outpatient department. We used it as our pupils day, where 1 hour in a week is exclusively assigned by each faculty member for students. And I can say with lot of pride and lot of confidence that this came very handy for us to establish some kind of contact with our students, especially when the students were under tremendous stress and anxiety of classes and examinations, admissions, and so many career issues. So this acted as this, and during our OPDs, student OPDs, the students are free to contact to the teacher on any issue, be it personal or professional. So this was very important. This acted as very important issue. Second scheme that we launched during this corona period only was that TREE model. It's TREE is an abbreviation of teaching, reaching, emboldening, and evolving. This was an exclusive mentoring program launched during this period for our postgraduate students. Besides, we also, in order to strengthen and build up the confidence of the people, of our students, who are actually the purpose of business, as you could refer to the very first slide, what we did was we launched a separate financial scheme for our students. We renamed our the financial scholarship scheme, and then it was earlier poor boys fund, which we got it converted and got it approved through all these statutory bodies. We got it converted into student welfare program, student welfare scheme, and within which we launched two important schemes. One was a karma yogi scheme, which is a kind of earn while learn scheme, where a student can work for 50 days in a year for 2 hours a day on the exclusive skill that the student has. So for example, if he's a library science student, can work in our library. If he's a computer science student, can work in our office. If he's a commerce student, can work in our accounts department. If he's a civil engineering student, work with our engineering section, and so on and so forth. Similarly, another scheme, which was a scholarship scheme, which we expanded the horizon and expanded the financial outgo for these students. So this was a 3C model, which was conduct of class, creation of content, and connect with student, which was an exclusive student relationship management, is actually aimed at building the larger canvas, but we extensively used it during the corona, even the crisis period. So the challenge that I was talking about at the very beginning of my presentation was that this is not just a standard model, an academic model, but has got tremendous implementation value. And this is what we have done in our institution. And I think I'm extremely happy with the kind of response that I have received from both sides, the demand and supply, that is the student as well as the teacher side. So this is all that I had to speak about the customer relationship management. I again extend my best wishes for the successful and meaningful outcome of such a wonderful program, which I received. It has still got 783 participants, and I was congratulating Professor Narang, not for mastering speakers, but for mastering listeners. And you have been successful that for past almost 40 minutes I have been speaking. I extended the time that I got, but then people are still listening. So congratulations to you. You have been able to find the listeners for the program. I would certainly be waiting for the outcome that we got. I was provided with some of the questions And I tried to address some of them, but then, given the time and given the content that I had to share with, uh, it was extremely difficult to attend to all the questions, but certainly after the closing of all the presentation, we would certainly like to address the questions. If not in this program, you can always mail it and we can revert. Okay. Thank you very much for being a patient listener. Thank you very, very much for giving me an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. This is Ajay Prakash. So we've just shortlisted all of those questions, just put them into two heads, of which one of them, which we shortlisted, you've already gone ahead with. It's very good that you decoded the CRM architecture framework, not only in theory, but it also came up in practice. So you've showed the academic world how this CRM architecture applies to the universities and the academic world. So I'll just put one small question. That one is, what difference will the post-COVID era bring about in managing trust among customers hesitant to transact online?
See, I were provided with a lot of questions. I was already provided with the questions that you are referring to by Madam. Very subtly, I passed on to some of the questions in one of the statements that I made, that CRM largely has been considered as an IT tool. Initially, it used to be considered as an IT tool only. And very interestingly, once upon a time, out of the total IT sale, 35% of the total IT product sale used to come from CRM products only. But gone are the days. We, as a student of marketing, are focusing more on the conceptual dimensions of this. B, the second myth is that it's implementation onto this online businesses only. See, what we are talking of is the implementation model. That is, this is the architecture through which customer relationship management concept has got to be transformed into when it comes to implementation of the concept. So first, there are two aspects to it. One is comprehension of the concept. Second is implementation of the concept. Now, at another level, when you're going to talk about all these, you're going to talk about implementation of these concepts with specific customization for different industries. So online business is one such industry. Second, with respect to this question, I should tell you, trust is a very, very comprehensive concept. So let us not belittle it by just using it as a term and start giving an answer to this. There are two words related to this. One is faith, one is trust. These two are different words having different concepts, extremely different concepts. In businesses, faith is important and not trust. This we are going to understand, because trust is repeated exposure of faith, and trust gets built over a period of time. Trusts are largely भगवान के साथ, परिवार के साथ. The relationships which are fragile in nature, their faith is more important. So the first stage of building relationship, actually these are the specific constructs that are part of customer loyalty building. So first stage that corporates work on is of building faith and not trust.
Right.
So I was not delving deeper into all these concepts because it leads to some kind of misnomer.
Thank you, sir. It's been very well explained. Now let me hand it over to Ritu once again. Ritu, please go ahead with the next proceedings.
Thank you. First of all, I express my deepest gratitude to Professor Rai for very succinctly emphasizing upon the importance of customers by citing relevant examples. So we welcome the 6C architectural framework which has been introduced by you, and looking forward to its publication. And thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us the various initiatives. I mean, for us, I mean all the participants as well, for sharing the various initiatives that have been taken by the university under your able leadership. And thank you also for encouraging our department, and thank you for encouraging me personally. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us today. So we move on to our next speaker, who's here amidst us. We have with us Mr. Rajiv Jamkhedkar, who's the MD and CEO, Serengeti Ventures Private Limited. Mr. Jamkhedkar is a veteran of the retail financial services business With 30 years experience, he has held positions of leadership in the industry at the highest level. His company, Serengeti Ventures Private Limited, has two ventures. One venture is a marketing firm that helps companies improve their sales and customer experience through unique frameworks, processes, and methods developed in-house. In 2014, Serengeti Ventures launched its second venture, pioneering product, the Azad program, that helps individuals achieve financial freedom. It is a first of its kind product in India, aiming to provide financial advice that helps people save money and earn more by making the right choices. Rajiv became financially free at the age of 42. After that, he decided to lead a life of investing in creating new businesses from unique ideas. His last job was as MD and CEO of Aegon Life Insurance. Before that, he spent 17 years in retail banking in Citi and HSBC in the area of consumer lending and commercial banking. Rajiv has extensive experience in startups and managing growth businesses. He has an MBA degree from Faculty of Management Sciences, Delhi University, and a BTech degree from IIT BHU, Varanasi. Well, BHU, from where our current Vice Chancellor is. I'm so happy to welcome you, Rajiv, and thank you so much for accepting our invite and being here with us. And Rajiv is going to tell us about innovation and new product development. Over to you, Rajiv. Rajiv, are you there?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I started speaking while I was on mute. So over the next 25 minutes, I'm going to talk about innovation and new product development. And we will talk about how it really impacts this process in this current times of COVID and many other changes. While Ritu read out my profile, I also wanted to mention that I'm also a PhD scholar right now and in Delhi University, preparing for my thesis. So I'm also one of you in terms of the management students. I run my own company as well in marketing. So when I was thinking about this topic and really want to speak to you about a few concepts that I think are important for us to appreciate the impact. Let's look at the first thing that a marketing student understands. And this is a story told by my friend. I'll disclose his name later. He met Dr. Philip Kotler, the famous Kotler's 4 Ps. And the 4 Ps are product, price, place, and promotion. And that's what every marketing student learns first. Now let's take one successful company. By the way, the recent decade, the last decade, has seen the rise of the tech giants. And they've all been very innovative. That's Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, etc. So one of those products I'm picking up, which is Alphabet or Google, we use every day. Now, Professor Kotler was asked, what about Google as a product? What are the four Ps? The product, most consumers don't know that Google is a search engine. Most people confuse the browser with the search engine. They don't even know that you're using a search engine. There is no price. It's free. There is no place. There's no channels of distribution. There is no distribution, etc. And Google certainly doesn't do active promotion or advertising in a traditional sense that most companies do, like a Coca-Cola or a real world company. And yet, in a short period of time, Google has built $1 trillion company just on the back of one simple product called Search Engine, how to help consumers search what they want on the internet. Now, the reason I bring this up is because while we talk about COVID times and changing paradigms, I want to say that COVID is an extraordinary event which focuses on what changes are anyway happening in the world, and probably COVID will only accelerate those changes. But I think it's equally important to notice what are the other tsunami of changes, I call them. They're not small changes. They're tsunami of changes that are already happening in the world of marketing. So basically, if you think of Google as a product, I'm talking only about the search engine part. You know, the search engine does not have a real, there's no tangible product or service that the consumer feels, because people confuse with Android, Safari and search engine, etc. There is no price, there is no place, and there is no promotion. So the 4 Ps and the famous 4 Ps we lived with for so many years, I mean, are they even relevant? I'm not there to answer that question, but the point I'm making is that underlying this success, this huge success of the tech giants, are certain principles and laws of marketing that are really altering the landscape of marketing and product development. And we will explore those in today's talk. So just like Google has taken advantage of certain principles, you also notice that virtually every industry in COVID-19 has suffered, whether that's airlines, hospitality, food and beverage, um, entertainment, etc., etc. But there are two industries that have actually not been as hit, and in fact, you can say that they probably thrived. And those industries, content and e-commerce. People, because they don't have anything else to do, so they're watching and consuming a lot more content, whether it's YouTube or Amazon Prime or Netflix or what have you. And also e-commerce, amidst a massive companies, shedding jobs and cutting salaries. Amazon is one company that is hiring and hiring lots because they're seeing an upsurge in demand. So what makes these products not only survive but thrive in the times of COVID is something which is the same principles that made Google into a $1 trillion company. Now, to put in perspective, $1 trillion, the entire market capitalization of all the companies in India is probably $1.5 trillion. I haven't checked the latest numbers, but about 1.5. This is all the companies add up their market cap. And this is one company, Google, that has got one search engine algorithm, which has got more value than all of the companies in India put together. So that is the power of the innovation and the power of some of the impact, some of the things that I will be talking today. And to understand that, one needs to understand where the product leverage comes from. All value is created through leverage. Now, there are various types of leverage, and I just want to focus on a few. And in the oldest form is obviously labor. If I work to get 10 hours, I can create X value. If I hire 100 people, I can create 100X value. And that's the leverage of labor. So that's fundamentally how the industrial societies came into being. And that's how all the agricultural societies also worked. That was leveraging those people who knew how to leverage labor, created value. Then came the leverage of capital. Those people who could actually get capital, invest better, and generate capital created leverage. So this was probably the era between World War II and or maybe even later, all the way till maybe last decade. So this gave rise to people like Warren Buffett and the whole capitalism. So and the rise of the financial markets. Today, financial markets are so important to the real economy, and that is the power of leverage of the capital. However, even those leverages are nothing compared to the third form of leverage, which is creating exceeding amount of value for companies, products, and markets. And that is the leverage of a product platform. Internet has created so Archimedes said once that give me a lever long enough and a place to position and I can move the earth. And I think it's a quote which I remind people quite a lot, because leverage is the thing that moves value. And the product platforms that are getting created and internet, which is just bringing the world connected together, is creating infinite amount of leverage. Theoretically, there is an infinite amount of leverage. And what creates this leverage is something for us to understand as marketeers, because then we will be able to exploit it and understand it. What makes a Google search engine worth $1 trillion, which is more than all of goods and services produced in India? Why is it that important? And it comes from and the next principle, which I say, it comes from, there was a man called Metcalfe. He came up with Metcalfe's law regarding telecommunications. And the Metcalfe's law then later on became what is called the network effect. Network effect simply says that the value of network is proportional to n square, n being the number of nodes in the network. So it is not, a network of 100 people is not 10 times valuable or powerful. There was a man called Metcalfe. He came up with Metcalfe. So a network of 100 people is not 10 times more powerful or valuable than a network of 10 people. It is 100 times more powerful. It's n square. And that's the power of any product or platform that engages many, many people. So the power of Facebook, when there are 2 billion people, is basically 2 billion squared. And that's the way to think about network effect. When more and more people join a particular network, the value of the network grows exponentially in square terms. Therefore, you have one primarily social media. So the whole economy where one product dominates a particular economy is the power of network effect. The network becomes more valuable as more and more people join it. When everyone from my family and friends is on WhatsApp, I can't remain out of WhatsApp. That is the network effect. When every business around the world is done in English, the world has to adopt English. That is the network effect. So fundamentally, there are now products in the new economy, and these products are taking the network, are using and exploiting the network effect to innovatively solve the problems of an individual and the problems of society. Let's take Uber. Uber is a platform. It is just a Uber or Ola. Ola is a copycat model. So Uber basically linked drivers and riders. They really don't own any cars or taxis. They don't own the driver. They don't own the customer. They don't own anything. They just own the platform. But because as drivers join Uber and as riders join the platform to take the drivers, the platform, which is Uber, becomes valuable. That is the network effect. And that is using the Metcalfe's law. The more and more this grows, the more the value of this one product will grow. Fundamentally, the new age valuation of a product is created by utilizing the network effect. Those people who do not understand or will not be able to create tremendous value in innovation as well as new product development. That is the rise of social media. And this is not to be confused with viral marketing. Network effect is simply people joining a platform. Viral marketing is something that is shared freely. So these are two different concepts. Sometimes people confuse between the two. So network creates leverage. And the leverage of product and leverage of platform is the innovation that drives value. And that value is determined by the number of people that are using that platform. This is the power of Google. This is the power of Amazon. This is the power of Facebook. And this is the power of an Ola or what have you. Now, the reason this is innovative is that internet has made it possible and cheap to create platforms. So when Thomas Edison is famous for inventing the light bulb, but to my mind, he should be more appreciated for creating something more valuable than the light bulb and many other inventions that he did. He was the first man to commercially make electricity distributable. So he created a first electricity distribution company. Electricity was invented earlier by Benjamin Franklin, but nobody knew how to distribute electricity efficiently. And fundamentally, firstly, it reached factories where they used electricity to replace uh, animal or manual labor, where there were horses and bulls, in the mills and everything, or human beings doing labor. So electricity first reached factories, but electricity for 20 years did not reach homes. And when electricity distribution company was set up by Edison in, I think, 1880, then it started reaching homes. Now, when it became cheap and ever present, which means day and night, that's when innovative products started getting invented by engineers of that era. So whether you call it, whether development of heat and the lighting, the heating, the air conditioners, the fridges, the vacuum, whatever we are used to in today's day and age, right from the toaster and the oven to everything, was because electricity was made cheap and distributed to every home in the 1900s. And all the engineers sat to exploit that technology. And please note how the network effect impacts. When everyone has electricity, then people will invent gadgets to utilize the electricity. And if electricity was the prime technology that powered early 1900 innovation and products that we are currently take for granted, whether it's uh, all the appliances in the home or the machines of the factories, uh, the today's age has a similar technology, and that has nothing to do with COVID. It has been developing for the last few years, and that technology is artificial intelligence. I want to just take a step back. Once we understand the network effect and how it generates value and leverage for products, and what is the value of a product platform, then we need to understand how a Google or Amazon can create value using artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is a broad word for a variety of technologies, essentially things like machine learning, deep learning, robotics, 3D printing, pattern recognition. These are all under the arch of artificial intelligence. But the fundamental things for marketeers like you and students to know is that extremely important to study the impact of artificial intelligence technologies in the production of new product platforms and new products. Just like electricity was harvested in the 1900s for a variety of inventions in the factories and at homes, artificial intelligence is now in everybody's pockets. We are using artificial intelligence every day without realizing, whether it is your favorite phone app, or it is your apps that you use on your laptops. Everything is enabled by artificial intelligence. There is no area that does not use. When you send a customer complaint for your Tata Sky, there is a robo answering. There is no human being answering it anymore. There are robots already everywhere. So the robots are already taken over. What we need to understand is that this technology of machine learning, deep learning, pattern recognition is going to go very, very far in the new product development. So Foxconn, which makes Apple's iPhones and is the largest manufacturer of phones in China, employs 1 million workers, have said that they will no longer hire any workers. They will plan to hire 1 million robots. So this has already been there. What we need to understand is that when a technology becomes cheap and ubiquitous, which means it's everywhere, that's when the real product development starts. It's only when the data becomes the 4G data or the 3G data example, when it became cheap and everywhere, then the content thing took off. Today, there are like a dozen platforms in India, I mean, everybody's getting onto this bandwagon of selling content, whether that's Amazon Prime or Netflix or what have you, Hotstar and whatnot. So when a technology becomes cheap and ubiquitous, it spawns a lot of product innovation. And those people, those companies, startups who will develop a product platform that leverages and creates infinite leverage out of the network effect using artificial intelligence and these technologies are going to be the products of the future. These are the innovations that are going to drive us in the future. In my own area of financial services, once upon a time when I was a banker, I would approve loans by underwriting manually. I would look at a business's balance sheet, etc., and I would approve a loan. Today, that is being done by algorithms. Loans are getting approved by algorithms. Insurance policies are getting underwritten by algorithms. Payments, of course, have all been digitized. So this technology is now is becoming cheaper, and there are applications and applications, and they will have further implications on every new product. Today, a fund manager can create a robo-advisor, and the robo can advise millions of customers on how to invest their money or savings. So robo-advisors are all there already. Those algorithms exist. The beauty of machine learning and why marketers should understand machine learning properly is that machine learning models and deep learning models, deep learning is just a specialized algorithm, a more efficient algorithm, but these algorithms can predict better than humans can. They collect data, and today everything we do in our lives is digitized. The number of sites I visit, the Facebook pages I visit, the number of calls I make reveals a lot about you. And all this data is stored, and the data is used to predict a consumer's behavior. Now, this consumer behavior, this is extremely important. For the last 50 years, marketeers have always been talking about wanting to know the consumer's needs and wants, the consumer's behavior, what are the factors people use it. Today, data gives, using machine learning technologies, marketeers can come to know very, very effectively what are the patterns, which customer is buying which product for what reason, what is the right time to sell a product to the customer, which customer will buy another product similarly. So when you see your recommendations on Amazon saying, if you people who bought this also like this other product, that is a machine learning algorithm. By just improving cross-sell, it generates huge amount of profits for the companies. Similarly, the same thing can be applied many, many ways. So these are for customer propensity, customer choice, behavior, timing, usage, repeat behaviors, etc. All these are getting modeled through live data. There is a company in China called Xiaomi. They sell phones in India as well. You may have heard of them. So Xiaomi has they also sell many home gadgets. They actually installed a machine learning algorithm in one of the products they sell in China is a rice cooker. And in rice cooker, they collected data of millions of Chinese customers cooking rice every day for many, many months. And through that data, they have actually figured out how to program the rice cooker of the cooker deciding what's the right time, the type of rice, the amount of water, and how to cook it perfectly. The machine does it better than the homemaker or whoever is cooking the rice. Now, I'm giving examples of product innovation, which are using large data, network effect, platform, and artificial intelligence. This is happening in as mundane a category as rice cooker. And of course, it also is happening in robo-advisory and many, many other ways. So coming last to my talk is COVID is only accelerating digitization of our life because of self-isolation, and this may continue for a few years, maybe 1 year more, 2 years more, who knows. our behaviors. We are using e-commerce, media, and content more. Everything is data, so we are using more data, and people, various companies will collect a lot of data about consumers, but millions of consumers. So once there is data, there is easy technology and cheap technology available in form of machine learning and pattern recognition. Marketers will form models of how to develop new useful products. So there are 4 steps I will just list here in which innovation will happen or can happen. One is how consumers discover your product, how consumers compare your product, how consumers purchase your product, and how consumers experience your product. So how your product is discovered, how it is compared, how it is purchased, and how it is experienced is all going to be determined by a lot of these algorithms and data methods. Based on it, new products can constantly be coming out, and those who will produce products and platforms that exploit the network effect will really be the big value creators. Unfortunately, in India, we haven't had that much innovation. I call innovation is different. Incremental changes is not innovation. Innovation is using an invention to apply it in a commercial sense is innovation. So an entrepreneur's job is innovation. Taking an invention like electricity and inventing a fridge is innovation. So that's what I mean. And we are seeing that happening in many product platforms that we are talking about. So I gave the example of Google, but there are many, many such examples. So I wanted to talk about all of this and the fact that the tsunami of changes in the marketing world is not just coming because of COVID. It was already coming because of the use of artificial intelligence, the spread of machine learning methods, the spread of robotics and artificial intelligence, and the spread of product platforms that exploit network effect. So this will get further accelerated by COVID as we generate more data for marketers to make better models and better algorithms. And therefore, my request to all marketing students here is to start learning these technologies and how these technologies are going to shape new product development. Thank you. I'll stop here. And if any question, I have a list of questions. Do you want me to answer any one of them?
Dr. Anis, would you like to take up the question?
Yes. I am Dr. Mohammad Anis, the faculty member of Department of Business Administration, University of Lucknow. Sir, thank you for elaborately deliberating on the tsunami of changes that were already in India and abroad, but it was further accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And you talked a lot on the technology, Facebook, Uber, Ola, Google, and very importantly, you highlighted the leverage that we are having today because of network, and the questions which I am having here, which I received from the participants, are 3-faceted. First question is relating to the agriculture sector. The participants is asking how can we utilize e-marketing for the purpose of developing our agriculture sector in India. So, and the second question is relating to indigenous craftsmen, and the question is that how vocal and local strategies helpful for indigenous craftsmen, and how can we utilize technologies to strengthen and improve local supply chain. This third question is relating to the startups and established entrepreneurs. The question says that during and after COVID-19, what are your suggestions for startups? Which type of marketing should be preferred, local or global or both? And by new and established entrepreneurs, and how can it be possible, sir? These are 3-faceted questions which were asked by our participants. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I Firstly, I'm not an expert on agriculture or anything, but I'll try to answer some of these questions. The first question on how e-marketing will help agriculture.
Rajiv, are you there? I think there is some technical issue because he is there.
There's some, I think.
Rajiv, we cannot hear you. So maybe there's some technical issue with this. Maybe when Rajiv is there, we will take up this question. In the meanwhile, let's move on to the next speaker. Rajiv, are you there? Are you able to hear us? Yeah, so we will move on to our next speaker.
I think there's some network issues.
Yes, I think so myself. So we will wait for Rajiv to come back, and I will request Dr. Rani to, of course, remind Rajiv to answer these questions. So let's move on to the next speaker, Professor Pia Polsa. So Dr. Pia Polsa is Associate Professor of Marketing at the Hanken School of Economics in Helsinki and has previously worked for Fudan University, Nankai University, and Hult International Business School in Shanghai. Her current research interests are poverty elevation, multi-dimensional value in cross-sector settings, service and relationship marketing at non-profit settings like healthcare, and cross-cultural methodology. She has published in journals such as Journal of Business Ethics, Journal of Business Research, Journal of Macro Marketing, Journal of Services Marketing, Supply Chain Management, and so on. The list is endless. Her work has also appeared in practitioner-oriented journals like Thalasalama, and currently she is the principal investigator of WP5 at CORE, Strategic Research Council project. She is also the adjunct professor at Vasa University. Pia is associated with Tikau Share and ISMG. Professor Pia Polsa will speak on sustainable marketing practices. So Pia, I invite you to speak, and I am so very grateful that you could join us today. Thank you so much for coming, Pia. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Welcome, welcome. So happy to see you, Pia. Thank you so much for agreeing to come at such a short notice. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for remembering me and inviting me to share. I'm hugely honored to be with you and share some of the ideas. I will share my screen now I prepared slides. So let's see if this works. Put the slides on and am I sharing the screen now?
Yes, Pia, you're sharing it. We can see it and we can hear you. Thank you. Yeah, we can see it.
Then I try to still make it bigger. Oh, let me see, the videos are in. I just try to make it bigger than what it is here. Let's see if that works. Let's try it this way. Anyway, I would like to share with you a reconceptualization of definition of marketing, which leads to many of the issues that we have already shared. And by reconceptualizing definition of marketing, I would like to come up to a changing paradigm towards more sustainability. And this is in line with the project that I am currently studying, which is collaboration between different actors for environment. Marketing and climate crisis and pan-epidemics are very necessary. It's very necessary for us to look at the fundamentals of marketing. What is really marketing? Why does it ever exist? And what role does it play in a current global situation? And therefore, I would like to scrutinize the fundamentals of marketing and analyze what is really marketing. In doing so, we can better answer the questions for marketing and marketing managers and marketing disciplines. How we can improve well-being of shareholders, but also stakeholders, and how we can provide multinational value to individuals and organizations. But not only that, also to the physical environment and biology. Definition of marketing, according to the American Marketing Association, started in 1937. That is very, very, how would I say, very soon, not quite soon, but after industrialization. See, before the industrialization, we really didn't need marketing because we didn't have too many products. But when the industrialization came, all of a sudden we could create a clothing in fraction of hour, while in previous times when it was handmade, it took a couple of weeks. All of a sudden we had too many goods. So we needed to do marketing. And the first definitions of marketing were only business activities, how we can do the flow of goods and services from production to consumption and so on. First in 1985, and that is partly because of Philip Kotler, it moved on to the process of planning and executing conception, pricing, promotion, and distribution of ideas, goods, and services to create exchange that satisfies individuals and organizational goals. But still, there was no nature involved. It was only organizations and satisfy an individual. 2004, value came in. That was the first, which the previous speaker talked about, an organizational function and a set of processes for creating, communicating, and delivering value to consumers. And now individuals are consumers, and I'm going to come back to this one. And for managers, managing customers' relationships, way that benefits organizations and its stakeholders. Here, it is not saying it is benefiting consumers. It's only saying that it benefits organizations and its stakeholders. So individuals are forgotten. They are consumers, but also what marketing does is benefit organizations rather than us consumers. Today, the definition of marketing, the last one, is activity set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. So now it has broadened its view from a dyad of a company and customer to society at large. But still, we are scrutinized to customers, clients, and partners rather than human beings. And I am touching upon this issue later on. One of the questions that I got, thank you, Ritu, for sharing them with us yesterday. Please highlight the importance of green marketing and green retailing after this pandemic. This is exactly what my entire speech is talking about. And I might end by saying, why do we need to have marketing at all? My critiques to marketing is 3 issues, and I'm going to touch upon them all. First, marketing, according to its definition, is delimiting human beings, Homo sapiens, into only customers, clients, and partners. There are others who have criticized this one too, including Kotler. Second criticism towards marketing is it's delimiting value into only economic value, even if it doesn't say economic value in the definitions, but mainly, according to the literature review that I am just doing, it is mainly economic value. And then it's delimiting our planet, our physical planet, into society at large. So still marketing seems to be more or less social exercise, rather than looking, what are we really doing for this planet? I think this pandemic is reminding us, but climate crisis is even bigger threat that we have for our current beings. And we should address that as a marketing scholars. In so doing, marketing is actually ignoring Homo sapiens as a holistic holistic well-being of Homo sapiens is ignored in marketing, and the plurality of value is largely ignored, not fully, but largely ignored. And still marketing is very much ignoring our physical environment and our biology. And I'll come to those issues. So these three critiques I'm taking up, coupled with your questions. And therefore, I think it is important for us to highlight green marketing and sustainable marketing, because currently we are not doing so in marketing issues. So the first issue about human beings that are diminished to customers, clients, and partners. Homo sapiens, we still exist. We don't know how long because of the climate crisis. Is more than Homo economicus or Homo sapicus. Use of words customer, client, and partners is marginalizing us only to Homo economicus or even Homo sapicus. This has biological consequences. This has environmental consequences. And it ignores an immense amount of business opportunities because we don't see Homo sapiens as a Homo sapiens, but as customer, client, and partner. Therefore, in the definition of marketing, we should replace customer, client, and partner with the word individual. And I give you some facts. The two top reasons for cause of death at the moment is actually linked to our unhealthy food habits, which is stroke and heart diseases. And this is WHO, World Health Organization, saying it. Currently, Lancet last autumn published an article about our eating habits that is destroying our bodies, but it's also destroying the climate. And globally, according to the current Nobel Prize winners, we have enough to eat, but we don't get enough nutrition. And if we go out from a food and nutrition, chemicals are almost everywhere, including our food, but also in our cosmetics, in our furniture, and everywhere. And it's also destroying the biology of Homo sapiens, including the environment. Someone of you asked in this business scenario where everyone is working tirelessly to achieve sales, profits, and numbers, how can marketers play a vital role in incubating the basic mandate and requirement thought of care of nature, environment, sustainability, and basic subsistence? Exactly by not looking individual as customer, client, and partner, but as a holistic Homo sapiens. That is my answer, one of my answers to this very question. We as marketers need to see holistic human beings, not only customers or consumers for that matter. What is then sustainable marketing practices for this first issue that I raised? They are, for example, promoting vegetarian and vegan food, which Lancet said is more healthy than the current nutrition we are globally doing. Less processed food, more natural cosmetics. My example is from your country. Thanks to artificial intelligence, thanks to the global supply chains, that product doesn't exist in Finland, but I order it every second year from your country online. And it's fully natural, increasing my own personal health. That is sustainable marketing practices, starting from the product, that we look at the products that don't destroy the globe and don't destroy our own bodies. But also seeking, and this is the potential too, market potential from other human roles than being only a consumer. Say, services for working mothers or support services like your universities have done for students, or services for elderly, just to mention some of them. Platforms are very good places where these kind of services can be created. The question for the previous speaker was how to support agriculture with the help of IE, artificial intelligence. That is something that has a huge potential, because people know now, based on these studies, that we need more local food, we need more vegetarian food, and they come from the farmers. They don't come from the processed food, and they don't come from Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or they don't come from the food processors from United States. They may come from your country, like your cosmetics are coming. So that's some of the ideas for sustainable practices. One of your questions was, what is ethical pricing in the current situation? We have seen the phenomenon that people have increased pricing of the products that we now need because of the pan-epidemic. Some of the hygienic products becoming very, very expensive and so on. The democratic pricing is sustainable pricing, so that nobody in a supply chain takes too large margin, not sellers, not producers, but also that consumers don't pay too little price. My country sees how your country is destroyed by us having too cheap clothing, so that people are destroying, getting cancer and so on by producing the cheap clothing to my country. My country needs to learn how to buy less clothing, but that are sustainably made. They become more expensive, but then I don't need 2 pairs of trousers per year. I can buy one for 5 years, and then your producers in your country get a fair salary. That is fair pricing. So this is fair share of economic value. It's unfair that I can buy 3 pair of trousers in Finland when they are too low. There is too low cost production in your country. That doesn't work. So we should not take advantage of those who are vulnerable. That would be fair pricing, and my answer to your questions concerning sustainable pricing. The second issue that I wanted to mention, and that comes to also a link to the previous speaker, is value versus economic value. As a Homo sapiens or as environment, we need other values than economic value. If you look nature, if you look the nature around us that we are fully still dependent on, we cannot create economic value for that unit of analysis. Economic value is also only valuable for Homo sapiens. And with our creed to have only economic value, we are at the same time destroying nature that we are dependent on. So we very, very soon, immediately, now need to learn how to create value that is other than economic value for ourselves, but also for the nature that we are surrounded by. So use of value when it's only economic value is marginalizing value. And consequences are in well-being, our own well-being, stakeholder consequences, and it makes us to focus overly much to economic growth. All of a sudden we have epidemic. Our economies are going down. None of us were learning before this epidemic what to do if the economy does not grow. I'm not only calling marketing people here, I'm also calling the economists and finance sector to see we have to learn what to do when economy doesn't grow. Because if it grows, then it's unsustainable. So we should replace in definition of marketing value with the word multidimensional value. And I elaborate a little bit more what this means. Now, at the currently, when we focus on economic value, explicitly but also implicitly, we measure success in any societal level as an economic thing. And one is we measure the success of nations in GDP. There is only 2 countries who do not do that. That's Bhutan, who is measuring the success of Bhutan country in how happy their people are. And New Zealand is actually considering to do the same. But everybody else is measuring a success of their country in GDP, which is an economic measure. We measure organizations' success in turnover, and it's always turnover growth. Nobody has ever said, well, this is enough. Our company is now this and this big. That is enough for us. Why would we need to grow? Also, there is a number of companies who have gone bankruptcy because they have taken too much loan in order to grow. They would still exist if they would have said, this is enough, we don't take a loan, we produce this amount, and so on. And for us individuals, we are measuring our success very often in the terms of how much we earn. And studies anyway show that many other issues matter than only our money or the economic growth. So, can my business or your business model be profitable? Yes, you need to be profitable because otherwise you become you go bankruptcy. But create, for example, social value, aesthetic value, cultural value. One of the questions was, how can we do our individual? How can we leverage our individual culture in order to make business? Sustainable value, environmental value. And very much so health value if we are now dying more for these diseases that are caused by malnutrition, or protection, preservation value for nature. We could create businesses around those issues. E-cars, electric cars is one of those, which can of course be debated. Vegan food is another one. And there is many other plenty of other things. And then maybe the turnover and growth is not as high as in other products, but there is other values at stake. One of the questions that I absolutely loved was, what marketing strategies should be followed to cope with loss during the pan-epidemic if one is practicing rose cultivation at home? I understood that was rose, the flower. First of all, if you want to sell your roses, you can take the environmental issue in your selling point, which is that we need bees in order to them to pollinate. There is a huge decrease of bees so that our whole ecology is at the stake. And from USA, for example, they are very much disappearing, which is a huge impact on our food production. Your roses give home for those animals. The other thing that happened here in Finland is that, yes, people didn't go to the flower market. anymore because of COVID. But there was increase in home delivery of flowers. So one can be innovative when one is selling aesthetics during the crisis places. Sustainable marketing practices then can be, and this comes to the question for the previous speaker, modern products for cultural protection. The little picture that I have on the right side of my slide is a carpet that is made in India, and it's woolen. The design is a Finnish design, but it's a woolen quilted carpet, and it sells in Finland with 900 euros each piece, and it's selling in Finland. And it is made by a person in India who was out of business 10 years ago because nobody in your country was appreciating this traditional indigenous product. And now it's sold all over the world because one of the persons saw the beauty of that, yes, sustainable, but also indigenous product that your country has. Sustainable marketing practices for other values would then be environmentally sustainable products, environmentally sustainable supply chains that might be more and more local because we are too dependent on the global supply chains. Even business models for poverty alleviation, which I do study, can be where you look at other values than only making money for myself. Those are sustainable marketing practices for multidimensional value. The last criticism that I had for marketing is that we talk about only society at large. Planet is more. Our physical planet, our nature is more than society at large. The recent IPCC reports on ecology are absolutely stunningly threatening for our globe. The nature is surviving, yes, but if we don't protect nature, then Homo sapiens is clearly disappearing from the globe. This has biological consequences, environmental consequences, and it overlooks science, natural science, on behalf of social science, which marketing is part of. So my suggestion is that we replace society at large with environment and biology, or couple it with environment and biology to give value for those both issues, our own health and then also environment. One of you asked, what is the philosophical paradigm of marketing ecosystem? And I cannot answer your question, but I took a little picture from an article, or from an article that I was just reading. It takes a macro-social ecosystem, society at large, meso-social scale of organizations, micro-social small groups, individual that I already talked about, biological that I talked about. The ecosystem should have even a larger circle here, which would be environment or natural nature here. That is the ecosystem where we should look if we create value for all these levels, from our biology up to here, which is ecology or nature. If we don't, we are in a trouble, because then we are destroying more and more different health issues and destroying our nature habitat. Sustainable marketing practices, in summary, should be a collaboration, sorry about my spelling mistake, with scientists and medical doctors to learn what is good for nature and biology to create sustainable marketing. We cannot do it alone as social scientists. We need scientists and collaboration with medical doctors in order to see what are those products that could be sold to improve well-being of Homo sapiens and nature. One of the questions was, while each industry and sector has constantly strived to improve and innovate for sustainable development, what marketing strategies is advantageous for startups, especially during the pandemic, to grow their businesses? My answer to this one is following. You can do a combination of social marketing, which is actually selling ideas, for example, sustainability, and marketing and research new alternative lifestyles that go beyond growth. You don't have to strive for growth, you can strive for sustainability, consumption, and individual well-being to save our planet. Because if we don't have our planet, we cannot grow, we cannot consume, and we don't have well-being. So we could extend our marketing research and economic research to look and involve the possibility of degrowth. What happens if we don't grow, if we stay as it is, or if we even go beyond lower? And to discuss and propose definitions of marketing and marketing systems to include ecological systems and biology. One of your questions are here: direct marketing and selling across India is a dismal condition as a stock has been sold. How can retailers deal with this? In the post-COVID era, how can we practice sustainable marketing? For retailers, innovative ways of doing retailing, home delivery, takeaways, but also delivery apps that the previous speaker talked about, and new products for the future that are looking at environmental issue. I have an example here on the right side, which is a gin company in Finland who almost laid off all their employers, but then came up that with the same technology, they can do hand disinfection, like a soap, but it's with alcohol. And so they didn't need to lay off any of their employers. They don't sell gin at the moment, but they sell hand soap with alcohol instead. And all their employers are working a lot. And they use the same branding, as you can see. This käsi means hand in Finnish. Why do we need marketing at all if we have been selling too much and destroyed our biology and our ecology at the same time? We need marketing to attract customers to sustainable movement. Our retailers are doing so by taking actions not to have plastic bags in their retailing stores, but the customers are complaining. So we need marketing to say, don't take a plastic bag. It's not good for the nature and it's not good for anything else in your household. So we need marketing to attract to sustainable movement. Two of the questions that I still remain as questions were, will the behavior of consumers post-COVID be greener than before? Which industries will be worst affected in the near future due to this pandemic, and which industries are going ahead towards dramatic boom? I don't have an answer for this one, but I have a suggestion for all of us. What kind of future do we want to have? What kind of future in marketing and business we want to have? We cannot answer these two questions, but we can make a change ourselves by our own behavior, by our marketing behavior, to make the world a better place to live and to make the world to survive for the future generations and even for our own generation. Those were the questions that I got, but if you have further questions, you can go and visit our website, the project that I was mentioning, or send an email for me. I am happy to discuss further. Thank you for the opportunity, Ritu. I'm fully thrilled by this opportunity and I am open for discussion.
Professor.
Thank you, Ponsa. This is Ajay Prakash once again. It's really been interesting, what should I say, a question answer session, which has been very, very elaborate, and you've really been able to go ahead with most of these questions. One of the questions that comes up at the macro level is we created sustainable development goals post MDGs. And once we did that, we created an agenda for 2030. Now, this is the pandemic world. So, how do you think post pandemic sustainable development goals should sustain themselves? That is to say, do we require some kind of tuning with those SDGs, or we can continue with the SDGs in the same way? And you can answer it at your own interest. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I looked at one of them, which is sustainable production and sustainable distribution, I think, number 9 or 7. And I was stunned how little action had been taken on that very topic. So rather than creating new ones, I would say we need to take action in the old ones, particularly when it comes to our economic system. Because our economic system, when it comes to, for example, global supply chains, is not created for circular economy at all. So it's created for producers to pull out products for consumers to consume them rather than have a loophole back to the producers to reuse. And it's not created for thinking of anti-consumption, because if you recycle, it also costs and it also eats up the natural resources. There is very little action on how to consume less in a way that we can survive all equally here in our globe. So I would at least call a sustainable development goal that is addressing the fundamentals of our economic system, including financial markets, because we have opened the financial markets so that people can make money without a physical production, which is creating more money, but also more loans, which then might be unsustainable in the long run. That's a good question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So that's great. I think that expresses all of the issues very clearly. And let me hand it over to Ritu. Ritu, you can give it to Anis, and then the answers can be there from the.
Ajay, let me first thank Priya before I hand it over to Dr. Anis. Thank you so much, Priya, for marketing practices by giving very relevant examples. And I really like the idea that you gave about democratic pricing being the ethical way of pricing. I had never heard about this, And thank you also for pointing out that marketing needs to focus on cultural, aesthetic values, health and environmental values rather than focusing on economics. In fact, we just share it with everybody else that people not only just personally seeing that she follows it daily in her consumption pattern as well. In fact, when I was in Helsinki, I was most amazed to see that she doesn't use a washing powder in her machine, right, Pia? You import what is called Rita from our country. And when she asked me, I was thrown off balance. I had never heard. I mean, I had used Rita to wash my hair, but I didn't know that clothes could also be washed. So thank you so much, Pia, for giving such valuable insights and being my good friend. It's been wonderful having you. Please stay on till the end. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So there was some power issue earlier, and that's why Rajiv got disconnected. And Rajiv has joined us back. Rajiv is in Gurgaon. Rajiv, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, so there he is. So over to you, Dr. Anis, for the questions.
Thank you, Ritu ma'am.
I,
Sir,
yeah, Dr. Anis, I have the questions, so I
yeah,
can
okay, sir. Thank you.
answer. Sorry, I had some internet problems, so I logged off.
Sir. No problem, sir.
Okay. So the first question is, how can vocal for local strategy help indigenous craftsmen? And
Yes.
I would say this is linked to the second question also, which is in what ways can the agricultural sector utilize e-marketing? Now, what I explained was that innovation is happening on product platforms. So what are product platforms? They platforms because internet enables connectivity. So buyers and sellers can be smoothly connected together, whether that is a Paytm money transfer, or whether that is e-commerce, or whether that is price comparisons. So the olden days of APMC, which is the Anaj Mandi, and all the where the fruits, vegetables, grains are sold in our country, as you know, the government has changed the law on that. So the farmers are free to produce. Similarly, the need of the hour for the indigenous craftsman is to find markets all around. There is
Okay.
no reason why a craftsman in Lucknow cannot find market, not just all parts of India, but all parts of the world. And today it is possible because of it has become cheap to do so. It was
Yeah.
not that cheap to find markets outside because of so many middlemen and various other friction points. Today, internet has removed the friction points, payments, financing, working capital, raw materials, all these things, and even customer word of mouth, customer reviews. These all help, whether that's craftsmen or the farming sector. On the farming sector, I would also like to say that in our country, we are actually surplus on grains. The big problem is vegetables and fruit marketing. Basically, anything perishable, the marketing of that, the farmers don't get a good price because the lack of cold storage supply chain is not there. So, of course, infrastructure needs to go in to do that. But one infrastructure, whether private or government, will come in into cold chains and supply chains, and even food processing improves, then definitely even on fresh, local, seasonal vegetables and fruits also can be marketed. And not just that, even the commodities, whether that is cotton or jute or any of these commodities, even the marketing of that can move traditionally from the traditional mandis and dealers who used to buy and sell. I think that will get more democratized with some platform. I think there is a need for some private initiatives here which can give platforms to these farmers and indigenous craftsmen. So I hope I've answered. And actually, the more users, we as users and consumers, more of us get onto such platforms, the more these platforms will become sustainable, because what I explained earlier, network effect. The last question was, what is the suggestion do you have for startups during and after COVID? Uh, well, it depends on the startup. It's a very broad question. But what I would like to say is that please understand and exploit the new technologies that exist, and usage of data to understand and predict consumer behavior is going to be a key factor for the success of any startup. What is called in startup world as a product market fit, which means that is your product exactly fitting the market, which means is the price point viable, is the product serving the need, etc. The product market fit is the most important determinant of success of any startup. And to get a good product market fit, don't sit in your own world thinking that this is my great product offering or this is my service and of course there is a market for it. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes we don't know what the market wants and what it needs. For that, a lot of data analysis and test marketing, collecting data using machine learning techniques will really help if you have access to data. Of course, not many people may have access to data, but even small amounts will start. So use of data analytics is uh, quite important for this product market fit. In terms of COVID, like I said, COVID will only hasten the digitization of consumer behavior, which means more and more people will be comfortable doing it online, are willing to share data, etc. So it's up to your innovation, how much you exploit this. Those were the questions. Anything else, Dr. Denise, that I missed?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv, for being with us.
My pleasure.
And I think very, very meaningfully, you've raised a very subtle question about the relevance of 4Ps today, by citing the example of Google. I really liked it, So I'm really wondering now, how am I going to talk about it in my class? And then, of course, you've said it very nicely about how to create value through different types of leveraging. So, and of course, you've also talked about the importance of technology, robotics, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth, the kind of role that they're going to play. They were already playing, but now how that is getting hastened in today's scenario. So thank you so much for being with us, and really, really very grateful that at such a short notice you could join us. Thank you, Rajiv. We've got our next speaker with us. So moving on to the, yeah, thank you, Rajiv. So moving on to the next speaker, we have with us Mr. Sudhir Sayal. He is the CEO for the Middle East business and head of global touring for leading online entertainment destination Book My Show, and is responsible for the operational management and long-term strategic outlook of the company in the Middle Eastern region. Sudhir's vast experience in the media and entertainment ecosystem across developing countries over the years puts him in the driving seat to steer the live entertainment ecosystem for Book My Show in the Middle Eastern market and position the firm as the default entertainment platform for the region. Before Sudhir took charge of the Middle East for Book My Show in 2019, he led the charge as CEO for the global movie ticketing and full stack entertainment management firm in Indonesia in 2015. Sudhir helmed Book My Show Indonesia to its present day position as one of the leading ticketing companies in the country, selling millions of tickets each year with a strong hold across thousands of cinema screens in the region. Sudhir's tryst with the media universe started long before his journey with Book My Show as television producer and news anchor. Well, I have seen some of his shows with leading Indian business news channel ET Now in Mumbai, India. At ET Now, Sudhir curated Starting Up, a special series focused on the growth and challenges of the Indian startup and technology community, featuring over 200 startups. Sudhir has completed his MBA from the illustrious Business School of INSEAD, which he joined after his graduation in engineering from Anna University, India. So I extend a very warm welcome to you, Sudhir. Very happy that you could be here with us. Yes, there I can see Sudhir. Over to you, Sudhir. Sudhir is going to talk about how to pivot your PR strategy, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ritu, and thank you everyone for having me. It's an honor to be here, and it's been good to listen to the talks as well. Some very relevant topics. I think that we've had academicians, some academicians speaking, but I think what I thought I'd bring in is a bit of a practitioner's approach to marketing, and also marketing targeted towards what startups are doing and how startups are dealing with the situation and the crisis. I think Rajiv touched on some very interesting points, that while the current situation and the pandemic is impacting many businesses at its core, it's this time to think out of the box and think of new products and new solutions which could help you in your marketing. So I'm going to take you through some of them. I'm just going to share my screen and we'll begin. Right, can you all see? Right. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
We can see it.
Perfect. So how to pivot your PR strategy? I wanted to actually start by giving by going into a bit of a definition of marketing and how marketing itself has evolved over the last few years. Right. We all there have been multiple definitions of marketing, but this is how marketing has evolved at this point of time. Um, So in 1960, the definition of marketing was marketing is the execution of business activities aimed at navigating a stream of products and services from the manufacturers to the customers. Um, However, in 2010 and moving forward, the definition of marketing itself has changed, where commonly associated or commonly understood definition of marketing now is marketing is the process of creating value by identifying and profitably satisfying target customers' needs in search for their loyalty. Now, what you'll realize from these two definitions of marketing is that in present day, targeting has become far more important and search for their loyalty has become far more important. Now, when we speak about search for their loyalty, what we're really talking about is if we market and we acquire certain customers, how long is the customer going to be with us? Or to put it more bluntly, how many times is the customer going to buy from us? So let's assume you are running an e-commerce company and you're selling anything. You could be selling a mobile phone, and you acquire a certain customer. Is this customer going to come back over and over again to buy with lesser marketing? And I think that's fundamentally what is driving marketing at some level today, and which is the definition which we have today, which is customer lifetime value to customer acquisition cost, right? So before this becomes too complicated, just to explain what this is, and then we'll go to the broader topic. Customer lifetime value is really the revenue a customer gives you over a certain period of time, and you can define that as, say, 2 years. And customer acquisition cost is the amount of money you spend on acquiring that customer, right? So for any startup or any young company, the customer lifetime value has to be higher than the customer acquisition cost. And if it's the other way around, then that's the early sign of unsustainable business. And this is also a key metric that startups, that venture capitalists and investors are looking at. And it's a key metric that one should think of while executing their marketing strategy. So with this formula in mind, you realize that your customer acquisition cost has to be quite low, right? And if all your marketing activities are centered around paid marketing, then it's unlikely that you will ever be able to hit this customer acquisition cost that you should be hitting. Which takes me on to my next slide, which is how has the world of marketing evolved presently. And I'm going to spend some time on this. And this is in some way the new definition of marketing, which is currently being used globally and especially for startups and young companies, right? So the world of marketing is now in some ways defined as earned media versus paid media versus owned media. And I want everyone to think about what these three categories mean. Owned media, I'm going to start with owned media. Owned media is really what web properties, website, mobile site, what do you own yourself? And this is a form of marketing which really has come into being over the last decade. So if you have your own blog, you have your own website, you have your own social media channels, this is your own media and your own marketing. And it's actually much cheaper than earned media and paid media. And it's a way for you to reach out to a lot of customers, and many conglomerates across the world are using this channel to showcase their brand. Earned media, which is actually what we are doing right now, is in some way the free marketing, the free PR, the press coverage, the sharing, the mentions, the reposts you're getting. So for instance, hypothetically, a press interview coverage, or if you're invited to speak at a certain event, that is considered earned media because you don't pay for it, but you get that media coverage because of certain achievements or because of certain views, and extremely powerful for a company today, and again costs nothing. Um, Finally, paid media, which is a lot of the media that the world focuses on. The whole world focuses on paid media, which is advertising, pay-per-click, display, GDN, Facebook. So there are multiple means of marketing, some more engaging than others. And you pay and you target audiences. But I think in our search for finding the right marketing mix, we spend too much time on paid media and forget about earned media and owned media, which have really taken over the world in the last decade or so. And actually, there are some functions of marketing which are in between earned and owned, and which are in between paid and owned. So, for instance, your SEO and brand content is between earned and owned, and if you're getting more exposure using search engine optimization and so on, it's between paid and owned. And I urge all marketers to think of marketing using this new classification, which will help you ensure that your customer acquisition costs are lesser than what it has been, especially in these times. So we discussed it. What are the types of earned media? It's your guest articles, interviews, blogs, reviews, industry bodies, speaking opportunities. Costs very little, but gives you a lot of leverage. Your own media channels can be across your website, your email marketing, social media presence, CRM tools. I think one thing that's happened for multiple startups is tools like CleverTap and Insider, which are mobile app CRM tools, which help you reach out to audiences. Again, don't cost you any money, cost you much lesser money than conventional marketing. And what has happened somewhere along the line is that paid marketing has become lesser. And these are some of the types of paid digital marketing that you're aware of, which could be your Google AdWords, YouTube, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn. Also, what's happened in the new digital world, unfortunately, conventional marketing, which is outdoor marketing, television and print, have also reduced in importance, primarily because measurability is higher in the digital world. Also, there are very few opportunities for earned and owned media when it comes to non-digital marketing, right? So this gives you a sense of the way the world has transpired. I'm going to now move on to PR, and PR, of course, is the key driver of earned media, which is low in price, but high in value and high in impact, right? So one of the things we did at Book My Show over the last few months is we've actually increased our PR activity, and I'm going to show you a case study of how we've done that, and it's actually given us fruit, so that you are in top of mind when the economy does reopen. So how do you define PR? So PR is defined as communicating your organization's messages at the right time and in the right place to the right audience for mutual benefit. You'll be surprised as to how valuable this is. For instance, numerous companies have grown through word of mouth or through earned media. So Google's marketing budget when it started was extremely low. Tesla's marketing budget, again, when it started, extremely low. A lot of these companies have scaled primarily via word of mouth, PR, organic, earned media, right? So, I mean, one way of looking at it as a joke almost is advertising is what you pay for and publicity is what you pray for, right? Moving forward, I'm going to take you all through a 5-step guide to better PR and how to pivot your PR strategy and through a case study, right? So what we've realized in this time is that there are really 4 key points to focus on while creating a PR strategy, and 4 key drivers, each of them being extremely important. Your PR strategy needs to be topical. B, there needs to be some element of thought leadership. C, C, there has to be a larger message to the community beyond your own commercial interests. And D, there needs to be some degree of empathy for the consumers, given the scenario, right? So I'm going to stress on this. So when you say topical, your PR journey for a company really starts with either writing a press release or reaching out to a journalist. So when you're doing that, it's important that you relate your company to a story that's already happening, right? So I'll give you an example, and that's going to be the case study. Is in the UAE, like elsewhere in the world, because of social distancing, live events, cinema have come down, right? So you're not allowed to take part in live events. You're not allowed to be a part of cinemas have been shut for a long period of time. So we actually pivoted and we created a virtual event calendar with some of India and the world's biggest artists performing virtually, and we called it Live from HQ. We've had over 5 seasons. Now this is extremely topical because suddenly all these journalists who have been writing about what you should do over the weekend, about how you should be spending your time, they are looking for positive news during the pandemic. Suddenly this became something to write about. Thought leadership, it reflected some degree of thought leadership by the company in terms of what's next in the world of entertainment in the short term or the midterm, and how can the virtual world be customized for this current scenario and this current pandemic situation that we are in. Community, what is the greater goal for the community? How is this serving the community? So it so happened that this initiative was free, and because this initiative is free, it's leading to a greater degree of happiness. It's leading to consumers being entertained and improving their mood, and it also shows a great degree of empathy for the current situation that we are all in, and showing people that, hey, you can still have fun. We are all in this together, and you can still have fun in spite of being in the middle of a pandemic, right? So any PR strategy which doesn't have these 4 key points will likely fall on its face. And this has happened, and I have some more case studies to show you in this presentation. This has happened in multiple cases, where companies have not necessarily been shown enough empathy, shown enough thinking about community, and hence it's seldom falls flat, right? If your PR message is not topical or doesn't have thought leadership, it will likely not even be covered. So I'm going to show you a quick case study. So this is what we did at Book My Show, the initiative called Live from HQ, where we had multiple artists over a period of time. We started with performing arts, and then we had comedy, and then we had theater and music. And this was how the initiative was launched. It was launched as a virtual event entertainment option using Instagram and Facebook and Zoom. And we started that off as phase 1. And obviously there was a lot of social media and there was a lot of coverage, which gave us a lot of, this was just to come back to my own definition, and it gave us a degree of mileage in terms of views and likes and so on and so forth. But soon the PR coverage started coming in, right? And the PR coverage came in much faster and much more than what we expected. So, and there were titles like Book My Show has turned stay at home into blazing fun. So that's showing that it's topical. How is Book My Show showing a certain degree of thought leadership during this current scenario? Again, this is showing that it's topical. There's a band that's going to perform virtual gigs. And similarly, there were a whole number of articles that came out stating that, hey, you can actually do something. It's free. You can enjoy yourself. Social distancing is being followed. Now we've actually turned this into a ticketing initiative where you actually sell tickets for this initiative, and people are continuing to buy because of the initial PR layer and the initial awareness that has been created, right? So point to note, it's important when you're structuring your PR messaging, how much to not only think about what you want to say, but to think of how you want to be perceived, and think of the consumer, of what sort of messaging the consumer is looking for at this point in time, right? So almost listening is more important than speaking. Often people go into the market speaking first, but actually it's important to listen and then drive your messaging through it. I'll give you another example. This is a case study about Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb. This is a very difficult messaging where Brian Chesky had to lay off 25% of its employees, right? But and similar, a lot of companies have had to lay off people, and the PR has actually been negative. But what Airbnb did very successfully was Brian's email, which was sent to its entire staff, which was written, an email which was written very empathetically, also keeping in mind health benefits for staff, keeping in mind their insurance, giving them job support and career support in finding the next job. And instead of hiding the PR messaging and it becoming a leak, they actually came out, this email was purposefully put on their own blog so that everybody could read it. And when that happened, and when people saw this email and saw how empathetically Brian and the Airbnb team had managed the situation, this story, from being a negative story, actually became a positive story. And it became a case study in terms of how to manage your PR response and how to manage your PR strategy, right? And this has helped Airbnb manage its messaging, because unfortunately layoffs sometimes are inevitable, but it's how your messaging is conveyed and perceived as opposed to the messaging itself, right? And this was something that again got a lot of PR and positive press. I think one thing that people often don't realize is that your PR and the tone you set in press also determines how easy or difficult it is to hire people. Often a prospective hire's first impression of the company is through PR and through the press, and hence it's extremely important to ensure that you're setting the right tone, which is what we've discussed. This brings to an end this topic in terms of what was how does one pivot a PR strategy during the pandemic. Obviously, these are difficult times, but I think we have shown that, and a lot of companies have shown. I think Zoom, a lot of other companies have shown that even that during these times, while marketing, while a lot of companies have seen revenues fall greatly, there are marketing opportunities out there, there are PR opportunities out there, and it's really looking inwards on how to redefine your product, how to redefine your messaging in terms of making your company more relevant. I think the Book My Show is a company where we would say that we are pioneers in out of home entertainment, and today out of home entertainment is non-existent, and we have pivoted now to become pioneers at home entertainment, right? So you need to change your messaging and change your strategy basis where we are in the world and basis what is happening. And I think not changing is the biggest risk one could have, and not pivoting is the biggest risk one could have. Change is constant, and this is where everyone needs to go, and this is where other companies are going. And if you look at case studies like Nokia and Kodak, which haven't changed with the world, they have not managed to keep up with commerce. Right. Thank you very much. I have a few questions which were put forward. I'm happy.
Yes. So Sudhir, Dr. Anis will take them.
Yes, yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhir Sial, for elaborating on Book My Show, and uh, uh, for discussing and deliberating on the various angles and various aspects of your case study on the PR strategy. I'm having some questions over here which were asked by our participants. These questions are, first question is, what type of impact would be experienced on PR strategy as a result of heavy exodus of international employees that we had recently during pandemic period, and how can we overcome such a negative impact, if any, uh, on the industries? Second question is, how do social media or celebrities impact on the PR strategy? The third question is the 7P concept holds its relevance when it comes to the service concerns?
Okay, so let me start. Can you just elaborate on the first question again? International employees or international? Can you just help elaborate?
International workers, both employees, the white collar employees and the unskilled employees. So,
okay, can you repeat the question, Anis? Sorry.
What type of impact would be experienced on PR strategy as a result of heavy exodus of international employees, both skilled and unskilled?
Sure.
And how can we overcome such negative impact on PR strategy, if any?
Sure. So I think that, you know, the truth is that I think the mistake people make is not being authentic and trying to hide away from what the reality is. I think what is happening in the world is everyone can see. And I think if you are not authentic and you don't put your cards on the table to say what you're doing, why you're doing it, I think that's when you're at a bigger risk. If you look at what Airbnb has done, they have gone to the market with their message, and it's the same thing Book My Show also had to do. So suddenly when you come out and you openly state what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're looking after the people, that's the only way to limit the message right now. Because if you are, on the other hand, if you are hoping that your message won't be caught by the press, or you're hoping that things that that you get negative PR, and things are just overlooked, then that's a larger risk to take during this period.
Right. Sir, the second question is, how do social media or celebrities impact the PR strategy?
Great question. I think the world has moved a great deal to influencer marketing. The challenge with influencer marketing is that while it's been a buzzword for the last 2 years, the actual metrics on impact, metrics on engagement are still unclear, still quite hazy. While prices for celebrities to be a part of your campaigns are at this point still overpriced and built on vanity as opposed to built on efficacy, right? So today, if you are looking to get a social media celebrity, a digital celebrity, and by the way, they are much cheaper today than they were 2 years ago, because nobody has too much work given what's going on. They can't be outside, right? I would only urge that rather than giving a flat fee like model, it's important for them to take some skin in the game and make it a variable fee model to say, hey, this is what we'll pay the celebrity. But if I see an impact in terms of traffic or in terms of sales, I'm happy to share more. But I think the days of a fixed flat fee that, hey, I'm going to pay you so-and-so 15-20 lakhs to be a part of my, for these 2-3 posts, I think you'll find that the efficacy of that is actually quite limited, also because there's so much of it already going on that you'll find that there are cheaper ways of doing it. So if you're a larger brand, and you're looking to use celebrities to propel your message to reach certain target audiences which you have not, absolutely. But if you're a smaller company, likely it it's not practical at this point of time, unless you change the model.
Okay, sir. Sir, last question is how the 7P concept is important or having its importance when we talk the service concerns.
Okay, so I think the way I've interpreted the question is that 7Ps in this current situation, how relevant it is in terms of marketing. Is that correct?
Dr. Anis? I think so. Yes, I think that's the idea. Yeah.
So just I think just to think about it, if you look at the 7Ps of marketing, the number one, the most important P, so as to say, is really is what your product is, right? So you really need to look inwards in terms of what your product and what your offering is, and really one product which is really in vogue and in focus right now is product which we're all using right now, which is Zoom, right? And live streaming is the order of the day. Today, we have been a part of live cooking classes. There are live cooking classes going on. There's live quizzes going on. There are live education sessions going on. There are very few things which have not gone on to Zoom, right? So how do you, out of the 7Ps, a lot of the Ps, some of the Ps have to change, but first you need to get the product right. And
obviously,
and live streaming is in many ways is obviously travel can never be replicated at this point, but a lot of other experiences can take place on Zoom. I'll give you an example. We are a part of there's a very popular radio network here in UAE called ARN, yes. And they've been running weekly sessions with their partners, with customers, where they have a weekly cooking class. And what they actually do in that cooking class is they actually send you the ingredients home. So the ingredients reach your home 2 hours before, and then you come together and you cook together on Zoom, and suddenly you are it feels like you are there, and it's extremely engaging. Similarly, they had a movie night the other day, and they've actually sent popcorn home, and they've sent drinks and nachos home. So it gives you it gives you a sort of community feeling wherein you are still disconnected, but you're connected. And it's innovations like this which makes the brand also being seen in a different light, which is moving ahead, keeping ahead with the times. Also, just to add, the price today is extremely sensitive, right? Given what is going on, and people need to think about pricing, keeping this in mind. So how in the B2B space, how do you look at more variable structures of payment? Even in consumer plays, perhaps you need to increase your quantity and reduce your price a little bit, as opposed to the other way around.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Sudhir. And I really liked, that you shared some of the initiatives which have been taken by bookmyshow.com to move out of the home entertainment to entertainment within our homes. And very rightly, you've told how PR can be used as a leverage to lower the customer acquisition cost. And the point that you made about empathy, community, and thoughtful leadership, I think that's really something which I guess the people really need to learn, the marketeers need to learn. So thank you so much, Sudhir. It was really wonderful to see you after so many years. Thank you for being with us. Please continue to be with us while we move on to our next speaker.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And before I introduce my new speaker, next speaker, who's the last speaker for the day, I would like to really thank all the participants for their patience. We've really overshot the time, but you've been glued to your screens, listening so patiently. You sent us hundreds and hundreds of questions earlier, and out of which we selected very few. And even now we are receiving so many questions. It's really very encouraging for us. Thank you so much. And we
This
have
is
a last speaker with us, and there is also a feedback link which has been sent to you on your chat box. It's also being screened alive. The link has been given there as well. So please do not forget to fill it up after Mr. Syed Aziz Haider Rizvi has delivered his talk. So the next speaker is Mr. Rizvi, who is the Vice President Head TCS Cognitive Business Operations North America. He has 30 years of strong leadership experience of setting up and growing business divisions. Mr. Rizvi has helped organizations realize their true potential across GBS finance and other business processes. His financial expertise includes digital transformation, shared services transformation strategy and planning, business process consulting, process re-engineering, shared services advisory, BPO service delivery, so on and so forth. The list is very long. Mr. Rizvi possesses vast experience spanning over various industries, such as manufacturing, airlines, travel and hospitality, retail and consumer packaged goods, energy and utilities, life sciences and healthcare, government and professional services, and so on. He has been responsible for setting up and establishing new service lines and leading diversification of product and offerings for TCS. He has worked with TCS across industry verticals, helping them leverage the digital technologies. Currently, Mr. Rizvi is leading a sales and solutions team, driving transformation for CFOs, CPOs, and CHROs. And maybe this is the morning time only for Rizvi. He will tell us whether I should greet him by saying good morning or good afternoon. And I really feel proud to share that he has done his MBA from our Department of Business Administration, University of Lucknow. Welcome, Rizvi. And he was my batchmate. And he is going to speak on digital marketing in the new normal. So Rizvi, where are you? We all are waiting.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can see you also. So is it morning or is it afternoon?
Yes, it is. It is like 8 a.m. in the morning.
Thank you so much for joining, and you joined so much more in advance. You were right there from the beginning. I think you haven't slept the whole night.
No, I did manage to catch some sleep. Thank you.
Thank you. So welcome to your own institute, to your own country, to your own city. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Ritu, Professor Rai, Professor J.K. Sharma. I see a lot of familiar faces from the Institute. Thank you for giving this opportunity. I'd like to share my thoughts on what has been talked about so far and what I see as digital marketing going forward, post what has happened in the pandemic era that we are right now going through. So from a view perspective, I have a couple of things I wanted to share, and I was hearing what the rest of the speakers had to actually share. I actually wanted to turn my presentation upside down and start from the last slide on my presentation. Take a moment to take it in. For Professor Pia and others who are joining internationally, this is a meme from a famous Indian movie where the protagonist is waking the heroine up saying, "Wake up, the webinar is over." So actually, what I wanted to talk to you about today, I want to connect the dots across different speakers and take the next 30 minutes to walk you through what my thought process is. What's really happening today is something that humanity has dealt with for years together. We have been dealing with famine and floods since the birth of humanity. If you go back and track civilizations have been built around rivers, just because food was abundant over there. But rivers came with their own challenge, and that was floods. So humanity, over a period of time, learned that they need to collaborate and connect to tame the rivers and stop the floods. We learned to build dams and stop floods. And that collaboration started what became nations, what became empires. Today, there is a different kind of flood that we are facing. And that flood is in two different shapes. The pandemic is nothing but a flood of virus. The vaccine is the dam that we are looking at. It is nowhere in sight, and it cannot be built by individuals. It cannot be built in silos. It cannot be built without collaboration. Nations will have to collaborate. Humanity will have to learn to collaborate. And as humanity learns to collaborate, the vaccine will come up. The timeline to the vaccine is a function of collaboration. If we continue to operate the research in silos, the vaccine will take that much longer. So what the pandemic is teaching us is a very, very crude lesson of not living in silos, but collaborating. If we do not collaborate, we will not be able to sustain the onslaught of this pandemic or anything in future. At the core of that collaboration, at the core of that success is really a one single element. And that is the cause of all what we discussed in the last 3 hours. And that is data. Come to think of it, what is a vaccine? A vaccine is something that is proven to take care of the virus. And how do you prove that, or how do you unprove that? You do it with data. Essentially, nobody has the data about something that works for this vaccine. Let's go back and think malaria. Let's go back and think measles. When we got the data as humanity, we were able to eradicate all of that was thrown at us. The pandemic COVID-19, we will get to the data, we will get to the solution. And as we get to the solution, we will overcome this. We will build the really about floods, famine, and building dams. That's what humankind has been doing all along. And we believe we are making a progress. But really, what we are actually doing is just building a dam. This dam is about data, and this dam is about being invisibly able to thwart the progress of the pandemic. In the effort to actually build a resolution, at the core of that lies what we are going to do in the current scenario of the pandemic and after, as far as marketing is concerned. And that is where we are connected in digital marketing. Digital marketing is all about data. If we have data, we know who the consumer is, we know where the consumer is, we know what the consumer loves. Effective marketing campaigns. Digital marketing is about leveraging the data that we have or generating more. So some of our speakers talked about some of these things in the past. Let me start with Professor Rai. Professor Rai talked about what he's doing in the university, in the library. I think my view is education is something that should be sustainable, and it is lifelong. So can the libraries of Lucknow University be open to alumni for access? Because I am a lifelong learner, and all my colleagues from Lucknow University, Dr. Ritu included, we are all lifelong learners. So can we have access to the alma mater's library as lifelong learners and participate in that journey? That is sustainable, and that is something which goes to the 3 circles that Sudhir Syal put up. saying owned media, earned media, and in owned media, one of the things that is owned is the constitution of either employees or students. In the case of the university, a student once is a student for life. Once a student accesses online education and online libraries, you do that for life. So the question I leave for the institution is, how can we have online access to the courses and the library facilities for life as alumni? And I'm sure there are a whole lot of academics from different institutions here. It's something that we need to look at for all academics as well. Moving on, there was a very, very credible presentation, and I was really thinking about what Professor Pia had to say about, Professor Paulson had to say about the sustainability of marketing in an environment where it doesn't serve just the purpose of value maximization for stakeholders. So I will share a slide about what I believe people buy. Simon says, people buy not what you do, but why you do. And brands have to figure out the why. If brands digitally figure out the why of why they do, there is a lot that can be done in understanding and furthering the digital marketing. It has to elevate the brand purpose to something that serves humanity, something that serves mankind, as Professor put it, something that serves Homo sapiens. What we need to look at is the purpose of the brand. And that is one of the P's that is missing in the 7 P's that was referred to in some of the presentations. Unless the purpose is elevated and the purpose is clear, brands will be directionless in a digital age. They will only maximize what is the value for stakeholders, and that is always short term. That is not going to be sustainable from a value perspective. Brands are always caught in this paradigm, balancing the sin and the soul. The sin is nothing but the profit purpose of a brand, and soul is really the purpose of the brand. Yuval Noah Harari puts it very beautifully. It says that it is dangerous to trust our future only to market forces, because forces do what's good for the market rather than what's good for the man, what's good for humankind or the world. Can we combine sin and soul? The answer is yes. And I wanted to share a unique perspective on how this is achieved, and then go on to some practitioner examples of how brands are achieving that. This is Jamshedji Tata in the early 1900s, articulating that the free enterprise community is not just a stakeholder, but in business, it is in fact the very purpose of its existence. This came from the legacy of Jamshedji Tata, that the Tata Group was formed and runs by this stakeholder value that community is what we serve and community is the only purpose that we exist. The Tata Group has a unique corporate structure where each of these publicly listed companies are held by Tata Trust, and Tata Trust actually invests back in societies. Each of the enterprises, public limited companies of the Tata Group, at the end of the year, give dividends and pay back to the trust 1/3 of their profits. And all those are plowed back to society, and we've been doing it for over 100 years. So this structure is unique in the corporate world, doesn't exist as a conglomerate structure where the trust owns the underlying public limited companies and the entities. There is no parallel of this in the industry anywhere. That is the reason why India is in a unique place, and we are very, very close to coming out of this profit paradigm and becoming a better humanity. That is the reason I believe we will overcome the pandemic in India with much more success than anywhere else in the world, where vaccines are being developed for a profit purpose. That driving vision gives me the confidence that that's going to happen. How does it play out in the brands? Let me show you how it plays out in the brand. 2 days ago, 4 days ago actually, Taj was named India's strongest brand. And on the 4th of April, the Taj Hotel in Mumbai was open to health workers to stay, and the Taj brand provided food for health workers and emergency workers in 7 different cities who were helping fight COVID. You see how the brand invests in society and becomes relevant to the current context of what society is actually going through. And the results are there for us to see, for us to understand. There is a lot that brands do in terms of being relevant in the digital world. And as I said, data is one of the keys if you have to remain relevant, whether it be fighting COVID or be selling your brand. Figuring out the core value proposition, the purpose of the brand becomes important. And then how do we bring that purpose to life no matter what the environment is? I wanted to share what Nike did on the 23rd of March this year, right around the time pandemic was at a peak. If you have a second device, whether it be a phone or a laptop or any other screen, go and look at this Nike ad, which focuses on the core brand purpose, which is health, but brings it live inside our living rooms. Play inside, play for the world. What you see here is Cristiano Ronaldo. He sets up a challenge of doing 100 plus ab crushes in 45 seconds. Now this really is taking the brand promise of health and athletics and bringing it to all the living rooms anywhere in the world. That is what digital is. That is what a brand purpose is. That's what a brand promise is, to interact with the consumers. Something that was shared about how a food network did cooking classes in Dubai by my earlier speaker. So figuring out the brand purpose, and the brand purpose being health, was something which allowed Nike to be able to launch a campaign where people are not able to go out, they are not able to go to run, gym or games, but how do they bring health and health challenges? And they have a series of ads. Because video consumes a lot of bandwidth and freezes some of these meetings, I'm not playing the video, but I'll encourage you to go and see the video about this ad. The other example that I wanted to share was the truth campaign of New York Times. New York Times runs this campaign which says so many dimensions of truth. And essentially what they are saying is they bring the truth to their readers. In this COVID times, New York Times has actually increased their subscription by over 200% because they are able to actually relate to the readers the value they bring in their proposition, bringing the truth and how difficult it is. These are 1-minute video capsules, and it's called the Truth Campaign. And they talk about different parts of the world where they have gone and unearthed the truth and bought it for the readers world over. It's a very interesting campaign. It's a digital campaign, but the brand purpose is to bring truth. That is what they were able to do. They continue to do that. And think of it, any media business. Have you come across a TV channel, a newspaper that says, no, we don't tell you the truth? It's very simple. Everybody strives that. But New York Times has made it the pivotal message of their brand. And they have corroborated it with what they do across the globe. Think of fake news and think of news that happens today, which is true. Think of the largest nation in the world. The largest nation of the world is not India or China. By population, the largest nation in the world today is again a nation on a digital platform. It's Facebook. Think of the sound bubbles, the echo bubbles, and the chambers that are there when you go onto Facebook, which collects 27,000 data points on individuals and knows you better, knows us better than we know ourselves. That is the kind of data that the digital platforms have. And somewhere in the earlier presentations, it was talked about that these are free. So Facebook is free and Google is free. Actually, they are not. We are giving them data. We are giving them insights into freedom of what we like and dislike as consumers. And that is the cost we are paying to get the services of these digital platforms, whether it be Facebook, Google, or any one of those. You sign up for giving your data anyhow they want to use. That is the cost we are sharing. And as one of the earlier speakers said, the underlying proposition is really the Metcalfe equation, which is n squared, which is squared the number of nodes is the power of each of these relationships. Now think about any news which is incorrect and shared on this platform, how it impacts in an n squared fashion. That is what digital is doing to us, whether we realize it or not. These platforms are taking away data from us for free, and we have to leverage the data. The core currency in the next decade is going to be data. The underlying currency is going to be data. Whether we are able to leverage that properly and relate it back to a larger purpose, like some of the brands have done. And I'll go on to the next example on the brands that have done on data. You're familiar with Just Do It. Look at this campaign from Nike, which says, don't just dream for you, dream for the next you. Again, small video, 1 minute, Raheem Sterling at the center, and they take the brand and touch the emotions. They're saying, don't just dream for you, dream for the next you. How can you build 100 more Raheem Sterlings around you? It's a story about a naughty kid from Brent who goes on to become a legend, and how he does things that he is taught not to do. It's an amazing 1 minute capsule. If you have a second device, open it and watch. Due to the limitations of bandwidth, I'm not playing the video here, but the brand has found a purpose, and the purpose is to help you dream, and not just for you, but for the next you. That is really what digital marketing is going to be, which is to connect at an empathetic level with your consumers, whether it be health in your home, which Cristiano Ronaldo and some of the other celebrities did, or opening a 5-star hotel to the community to serve both for stay and food, or bring experiences to life for your consumers, whether it be in their home, in their kitchens, in their classrooms, online education. These are all examples of how digital marketing is going to change and is steeply increasing the curve of change. What will be important will be how we leverage the digital technology and make our brands become a part of life for our consumers. And what I call that is being intelligently invisible. You become so close and so part and parcel of the life of consumers that you become intelligently invisible. That's the phenomena that is going to happen in the post-COVID world of digital marketing. I'll stop here. I know it's been a long journey, and I'll go in and take any questions that you might have. Ritu?
Thank you, Rizvi. It's been great. I'm Ajay Prakash, and probably we also met once when you were here in the department. Let me just ask you a small question. We've already overshot the time because of most of the speakers. But what we're trying to understand with the specific context of India is that, as you have been telling, and we also know that now digital platform is actually the in thing. And India is a country where we have a number of small businesses. Not only that, the government recently has been trying to come up with a number of startups. So this has been there in the minds of the students, academicians, entrepreneurs, and all of us. How can we as entrepreneurs leverage digital marketing so that we can counter big organizations like Nike and others, the examples which you have been giving in your presentation. I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So, Ajay, great to meet you again. I will share one example, both examples from India, but one where digital marketing has been leveraged by a small brand very successfully, and second, wrongfully. In your kitchens, in your households, you'd be familiar with a brand called Chings, Chings, Chings. It gives a lot of accompaniments and sauces and whole lot of stuff. Got into noodles, and it's been doing this not in the COVID era, but for years together. What Chings leverages is the problem that small stores have. Small stores fight for shelf space with big brands. And Ching is a small brand. It didn't have the power that other large brands had, like Unilever or Kraft, multinational brands that come into India, Coke, and others for shelf space. Ching used the digital platform, Twitter, and got consumers to respond and say where they were finding stores out of stock with Ching brand. You could tweet today also, if you went to a store and you could not find a particular brand or a particular flavor of Ching, and Ching will then respond back to you saying this is available in the store next door or near you where it is available. But at the same time, Ching will also tell you that in your preferred store, we will make it available in the next 24 hours or next 48 hours. So they reached out to consumers for replenishment. But the more important thing that Ching accomplished was to take the tweet to the retailer, the Kirana store, the corner shop where you go and buy groceries, and say, look, this is a tweet which says you don't have this brand. Why would you not keep my brand? Why would you not stock my brand? And it became very, very important for the small retailer to actually store that because he saw actual demand on the platform. Mind you, that platform did not use the retailer, just reached out directly to the consumer, and they used this for replenishment. They captured demand, they were able to replenish it, and they were able to get shelf space without paying for shelf space, which other giants have to do. So Surf Excel and Coke and other big brands in India end up paying retailers for shelf space. Ching doesn't pay for shelf space. Ching uses the pull power of brand to be able to leverage digital marketing to actually stock up and convert this into sales. Now, this is a great example of how digital marketing or digital channels or platforms are used by small brands successfully. And it's been on for a long time. The second place where things went wrong is there is this platform of Grubhub. Now, on the Grubhub platform, you can see ads coming up at times. And there is an online education ad that comes up on Grubhub. I'll not take the brand which started advertising there, but when you and I are looking for food, buying online education is the least important priority for us. When I'm wanting to order something, at least I know myself, right? When I am hungry, I'm not going to buy education at that point in time. That is a wrong use of a platform. Because the platform is available, it reaches consumers, and I have money to spend, I start spending online education promotion dollars on a food platform.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll give you one more example and I'll stop, where companies don't realize how earned media hurts them. My previous speaker from Dubai actually gave an excellent example on Airbnb and how they leverage the earned media by putting out the layoff message of the CEO and getting a positive impression on humanity. If you go back about less than a month, on the 10th of May, Uber announced that they are laying off 3,700 people across the globe, which is 15% of their workforce or something thereabouts. Uber is going through a huge shrinkage in business because of travel reducing, and they announced this on 10th of May. On the and this is just 3,700 people, okay? And on the 13th of May, and you can go and Google this, they announced a $6.8 billion acquisition for Grubhub. And the reason I'm bringing this up is it's connected to my previous example, which is the food platform, Grubhub. They could not keep 3,700 employees in a downturn, but they were happy to invest in a proactive bid of Grubhub worth $6.8 billion. Contrast it with Airbnb, how the humanity message was put out. Okay, contrast it with what Professor Pia said of value maximization of stakeholders and the impact to society is lost. Contrast it with what I said, the very purpose of a free enterprise is the society itself. Then go and look at a small pizza chain here in US called Frederico's. Huge unemployment, businesses closing down, restaurants closing down. The owner of Frederico actually took out a personal loan to keep paying employees so that he would not lay off employees, even though retail chains were closed. Understand the power of humanity and brand that comes with it, and how we eulogize products like Uber, where the heart and soul is missing. So I've given a long example, Ching's, online education on education platform, on a food platform, Uber and Airbnb.
Yes, thank you so much.
I know you're full with examples and it has been very well elaborated. Thank you for the questions and the answers. There are many others which are popping up, but I think it's now we are overshooting time. So let me pass it over to now Dr. Ritu Narang. Dr. Ritu Narang, please go ahead with further deliberation, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rizvi, for joining us. And I think there's one point that you very strongly driven home, and that is another P. I wouldn't call it the 7th P, I would call it the 8th P. You've said that the purpose of the brand needs to be very, very seriously elaborated and explained. And the brands need to really figure out why they are doing what they are doing. Very well said. And yes, and of course, you did mention that once a student, always a student. Yes, you're so right. I consider myself a student all the time. And, you know, as an alumnus, you've raised one request, I would put it like that, that how can the alumni have access to different courses and to the e-library resources? So this question or this request of yours, I'll definitely put across to the Vice Chancellor. And let me share this with you that we are celebrating the centennial year for the university. And you've got two logos of the university on the left and the right side of your background. So I wish I had told you earlier, you could have put the centennial logo as well. So thank you so much. And before I hand over the mic and the video to Professor Sharma, let me very quickly thank all the participants. Let me quickly thank all the speakers who've been here. The participants, I can see Anant clapping. So there has been a huge response. And there are so many others clapping. So thank you so much. And I would also like to thank all my colleagues, especially Professor Sharma, our head of the department, Mr. Sanjay Medhavi, Dr. Himanshu Mohan, Dr. Ajay Prakash, Dr. Mohammad Anis, Dr. Kaushal, and all other faculty members who really helped me, and particularly the students Sonal, Talha, Radhika, and Ankita. And now I hand it over to Professor J.K. Sharma to please share the summary of the proceedings and formally thank everybody. So, sir, over to you.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good day. It's been my privilege to be part of this session. It's been a long session. And so I had to summarize the summary, in fact, and also propose a formal vote of thanks at the culmination of very interesting international webinar on challenges to marketing, new paradigms. The sessions have been very enriching, and we acknowledge the contribution of all speakers and participants for their involvement in seeking explanation and answers to their questions. Many good points have emerged through the discussions and have triggered ideas about further research and an application in practical sense. I, on behalf of the Department of Business Administration, University of Lucknow, and on behalf of the participants' entire LUMBA fraternity, and on my personal behalf, extend a very warm thanks to all the speakers for sharing with us their perspectives on this very important topic. I acknowledge my deep sense of gratitude to Professor Alok Rai for his illuminating insights through discussions on topic CRM, the architectural framework. Thank you, sir, for currently weaving the constructs of CRM for simplifying the understanding of dynamics of customer character and redefining what constitutes customer satisfaction and delight. Your emphasis on CRM as a continuous process of customer building and enhancing relationship using 6C hierarchical architecture to increase customer lifetime value through customization is very well appreciated. I would like to thank Mr. Rajiv Jamkhedkar, MD and CEO of Serengeti Ventures Private Limited, who has been an entrepreneur as well as entrepreneur, for benefiting us with his experience and insights on innovation and new product development under the changing paradigms. Your narration of Google's, Ola, Facebook, etc. as successful products, it speaks about the power of innovation leveraged on the product platform effect using network and application of AI to create value are well taken. COVID has further accelerated the use of technology and AI in new product development. We are extremely indebted to have our international expert contributing to this webinar. I express my sincere thanks to Professor Pia Polsa, Professor of Marketing at the Hankins School of Economics, who enlightened us on sustainable marketing practices, especially the emphasis given on health, wellness, environment, friendliness, and economics of creating value by presenting a reconceptualized definition of marketing involving society, our planet, and replacing customers with individuals and pursuing value as multi-dimensional value, let alone profits or GDP, and including ecology and social marketing in our practices as well. We also listened to valuable input on how to pivot PR strategy, told by Mr. Sudhir Syal, a very pertinent issue to maintain relevance and ensure continuous connect with all the stakeholders, not to mention customers, particularly in changing scenario. Thank you, Sudhir ji, for driving home the importance of PR in the times when organization strategy has to do more with long-term successful existence by targeting customer life value being more than customer acquisition cost, utilizing earned media channel and owned media channel as well. Your guide to better PR strategy involving empathy, community, thought leaders, topical content presented through a real life examples are very illuminating. I express a very warm welcome, very warm thanks to Syed Aziz Haider Rizvi, Head Cognitive Business Operations, TCS North America, for delivering his presentation on digital marketing in the new norm. Thank you, Mr. Rizvi, for valuable input on the nature of new norm and digital marketing approaches and connected issues in the context of pandemics. Your emphasis on data and collaboration is very valid for having a solution to pandemic. And the new concept which you emphasize, I must very much like it, importance of data as currency, not only for fighting COVID, but also for all marketing approaches. I once again thank all the speakers for their valuable contributions, their valuable time, especially when they have valuable time, just countries are unlocking themselves and preparing for challenges of the new norm. And finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to the initiative and patronage given by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Rai, who has been instrumental, in drawing up this theme for the webinar. Obviously, the importance lies because of unprecedented change in the world, causing shifts in supply chain, decline in consumerism for non-essential goods, unemployment, economic recession, fall in GDP of all countries, and bleak outlook for the future. So the topic has been very relevant. Special thanks to all the hard work which has gone into planning and execution for holding this seminar. My special thanks to Mr. Medhavi, the current head of the department, and Dr. Ritu Narang for coordinating all the activities, by all faculty colleagues, Dr. Ajay Prakash, Dr. Anish, and all those in the background. And my sincere thanks to all of them. My thanks to all the members of the organizing committee for the valuable support, cooperation, and involvement throughout the process of planning this event. We have been very fortunate to have a very formidable team and motivated team at the Department of Business Administration. Finally, my special thanks to wonderful students, research scholars, teachers, and alumni who have turned up in such great numbers, not only from our department, from other institutions, colleges, from within the country and outside the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And before we say bye-bye to each other, let me once again repeat for the benefits of the participants that the feedback link has been shared in the chat box, and it was also put up in the video description section in the live YouTube channel of the department. So thank you so much for joining us. Well, there was Dr. Kaur from Punjab, Dr. Muhammad Shakil Khan, a lot of students, Gopi, Vivi, Amit, Doa, so many of them whom I saw. Hey, Pia, thank you again for switching on your camera. So thank you everyone. So Bye-bye, and enjoy whatever is left of your Sunday. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.